How are you? Good to see you again. Thank you so much. Glad to have you. You're in the middle of all this stuff, the wires, everywhere. I know it's like breakfast, isn't it? Whatever you want. It's your meeting. All right. Yeah. We're good to go? Cool. All right. Well, hello, Wyoming Workforce Development Council. Eric Trowbridge, ET, your chairman. Excited to welcome you all to Riverton.
Being here, Eric. Oh, that better? This is kind of like a rodeo. Um, can you all hear me? Are we online?
People on Zoom, yeah.
I think I can.
Oh, people on Zoom. Oh, okay.
I see.
That better?
Okay.
You hear? So I can be right up to here, like, so that the camera can swivel around, see my belt buckle. So, yeah, really, I'm interested in what you see, what you're able to do to kind of make our workforce go forward. I think we've done some really cool things, in terms of being able to kind of realign a bit the education system that we've got, with both the RIDE initiative, which I got to tell you, been going around the state looking at different schools and how they've implemented kind of a more student-centric, mastery level kind of curriculum. You go to a place like Meeteetse, the whole school is engaged in it, that all the kids at the senior level have internships that they're doing in the community. You go to Cody, you hear just these wonderful stories about one student is interning at an orthopod office. Another one is interning at a law office. One just got his CDL, first high school kid to get a CDL. Another one is working kind of in kind of a computer networking kind of thing. Yeah, you go other places. I know Upton, for example, has got great internships and other things. Shay, you know more than I do, but it's just exciting to see what's going on K-12 level and just getting more interest at an earlier age in things that students find passion in and being able to run with that. The reason I really like Upton is that, I mean, they're all schools, Kemmerer is amazing too, but Upton has made it so that if you're really engaged, let's say in a science project and you're caught up on all your other courses, they can adjust the schedule so that you can work your particular science project that entire day, if that's what you're really engaged in. You still have to meet your other courses. They've designed the schedule, won't work at every place, but they've designed it so that you can do any course. The teachers are teaching that course all day long. So English, if it happens to conflict with band or forensics, you can still go take the English course when that's there. That growing up in KC, seeing what my daughter in Buffalo High School was trying to figure out how to align all that stuff, and seeing that there's a school district that is saying that this is something we should do. I think that's really exciting. I think it's going to really engage students. The WIP initiative, which Lauren has had so much to do with, and Brad, president of this community college, really took a deep interest in it. It took a lot to begin to talk about, we as a state have this amazing resource. We shouldn't be parochial about it. We should be figuring out ways we can work together. It's finally catching on and making things happen. I'd always looked at it as sort of twofold for our community colleges. One, and I think you all know, that dual and concurrent enrollment piece for high school grads is as good as any scholarship you can get. If you can get college credits out of the way, hooray. Second piece of it is, we know that no matter where you are, whatever job you're in this state, it's going to change. I still remember Cloud Peak, no longer in business, but Cloud Peak, going in and watching a dozer operator in a chair in a heated office with a bunch of screens up, running nine cats, pushing fill in, and just never thought about. I grew up kind of running scrapers and cats and backhoes, never thought of it in a remote office with the technology linked up to doing that. So different skills, different fields, different things. And I think the hope was that with the WIP program, we would be able to be responsive, both to students as they're coming up, but also to people as they're trying. And I hate word training just because we're not dogs, we're people. And so having the ability to get those skills, those educational opportunities that are so important, either as you're transitioning jobs or as your job is improving and expanding and changing. Those things were really critical. You all are kind of at ground zero for all of that. And I have been touting this with industries around the country. Look what we're able to do, being responsive to your industry as it is expanding. So take a look at, we've got nuclear credits that are the nuclear certificates that are going to be done at the university and at Western this coming year. That was something that we didn't even think was out there, like, let's say 3-4 years ago. So Wyoming really is being responsive and leading. All the work that we're seeing with data centers and AI as they're coming in, what that's going to mean in power gen, what's that's going to mean in just raw skills of electrical engineering, of being an electrician, of being able to be certified and all of that. So I think there's a really rich environment, and I think it runs the gambit from being a pipe fitter all the way up to being a highest level of technician. And I think Wyoming, this Workforce Council, has such a great opportunity to kind of direct that, lead in so many ways. I know you're going to have our support 100% in doing that. I will give you a task that Director Gagan has already heard from me on. We have a whole bunch of National Guard folks coming back. They're exceptional. But I was just over visiting them. They're going to be coming out of country probably in the next couple of weeks. They'll be transitioning for a while, but they have been extraordinary. The Chief of Staff of the Army called me and General Porter before we went. And, it's kind of like, why would the Chief of Staff of the Army be calling? What have my guys done now? What are we getting into? And he said, I just wanted to call and tell you, these are the best we have. That's really nice to hear, General. So what'd they do? And he said they did everything exceptionally well. So these are really highly motivated, highly skilled people that have been out of country for a while. And they've been watching, reading the news and seeing what's going on, and they're very concerned. That's what every town hall we had with every unit. What is it going to look like when I come back? What are the job opportunities I'm going to have? How can I make sure that I have a job? How can I make sure that, I don't have to be doing something else than what I know, or, what are the things I can do to get back? So I know the Guard has been working that program themselves, but I know I reached out to Director Gagan and said, what are the job fairs? What are the other things that we can do to be helpful? What are the ways that we can equip those people as they come back? Because they've been out of the country now for several months. So that's sort of ground zero for one thing that I hope that we can talk about. What is it going to look like when we welcome these people back? And maybe there's some things that we've been doing with job fairs and other things that can be useful as we think about building out the training and the other programs that that are your purview, Eric. So, and I think, the other thing, it's an interesting time. I don't need to tell you this. There's a lot of if you're of one mind, you could say adjustments to the budget. If you're another mind, cuts that are coming, and they're going to be challenging, but in some ways, I hope they are helping us be stronger as a state to be able to do more to support the industries and the folks that live here in the state. But I think that there's going to be, in healthcare, SNAP benefits are going to be tough. Healthcare, Medicaid cuts are going to be there. A lot of other things. So I'm hoping that there are ways that the state of Wyoming can help people find the positions and jobs that will help mitigate against some of the shock that we're gonna see from that. I'm not gonna put a lot of emphasis on what that's gonna mean to what the state is able to provide, other than the fact that I think we all have to step up. There's more of this that's going to come back to the states, more importance for us to really embrace that and address it. And I think that's got to be a bit more than just where the dollar's coming from. I think it's about, how can we be more creative? What can we do to make this work a little better? So, did I miss anything, Lauren?
Good job.
As I say, it's sort of like load the disc, pull the string. But Eric, thanks. And I'd be happy to take any questions. I really would like to hear from you, the things that you're thinking about, the things that we could be focusing more on.
Some questions for Governor Gordon?
Yeah.
I was curious, is there any agency or division that has talked about childcare issues in Wyoming? Yeah, childcare.
Yeah.
Because of our demographics, the long main streets of Wyoming, childcare seems to be an issue for a lot of people, whether they're married or single parents. I was wondering if there's anything being done about that.
We have talked about it in the office a couple of times. I even supported Mike Ying's bill that would have had childcare provided during the session, which seemed like a modest step. Having kids that are trying to raise family and knowing it's like $2,000 to $3,000 a month. It is an issue we got to work on. And so I don't know if, there are two pieces to that. One is how do we provide it? But the second one is that so many of the providers of childcare are about my age, like in their sixties. And so being able to encourage people to pick that up. Yeah, it's a conversation we have, but it's mostly about, wouldn't it be nice? And so if you have specifics, it would be, well received.
I wish I did.
Well, but it's a good conversation starter. And honestly, all things are political. I don't mean this to sound unkind. But some of these conversations it would be nice to talk about these things that are really valuable, when sometimes we talk about a lot of other things that really don't apply. So,
Thank you.
thanks. Yep.
One thing, and I just heard about it today, was the Job Corps.
Mhm.
They're potentially trying to cut out the job course. Is that something that, we're gonna have to come up with something else to be able to?
Well, Job Corps is a federal program. We've all been talking to our senators, our delegation. I think there's an appreciation for what it does. Mike Enzi worked really hard to get this one here. I think you'll find it's an exceptional program. The last time I looked at it, it was mostly people out of Montana going to work in Colorado. So being able to shortstop them here would be really cool. I think it's of immense value, and I'm hoping that it'll stay, but it's a little bit out of my hands about that. But we all have the ability to do some of that work here. It's a heck of a campus. Maybe there are partnerships, and I know the director, last time I talked to her, was really talking about what can we do to expand this into some of our high schools and community colleges. That's just a matter of us trying to take that on and do with it. So, yeah, thank you. Yeah.
And I work for Job Corps, for Heavy Workforce Services, who operate the Job Corps Center. Trump tried to get rid of Job Corps in his first term, and Congress voted rules. And we really anticipate that being the same thing this time. You were in DC a few months ago doing a bunch of politicking, as you said. So every operator was there for the most part. 80% of our students a couple of years ago came from outside of Wyoming. So we see the importance of building the Wyoming workforce. So right now, we're a little above 40% of our students in Wyoming. So that's why they would go back to the Colorado area or even Texas. Those are our big recruiting grounds. We move recruiters into the state of Wyoming. And that's the focus to build up Wyoming workforce.
Thank you. So yeah, you can see where we need to start. And it's an incredible program. I think if you haven't seen it, you'll see it's impressive. Other questions? Why are you still standing here, Governor? Why don't you get out?
I'll be talking a lot about this today. This is kind of your quick high-level thoughts on the AI revolution and its
Sure.
impact on workforce. Were you kind of expecting that to look like in Wyoming?
Yeah, I think my own particular view of AI, it's the hottest, sexiest thing we've got right now. Everybody's doing AI. It's going to be amazing. I think there's a saturation point. There's no question in my mind it's going to change the jobs we do, the work we do. Whether it's going to affect white collar or blue collar jobs more, that's a little still up in the air. But I think that's, I mean, actually, if there was a challenge, for me, having looked at this for a last little bit, biggest challenge is gonna be, how can we use AI to make the jobs we do better? And I think that's a perspective that we're gonna have to carry forward. And I've carried this for a long time. I've always felt that technology shouldn't replace jobs. I understand why you know, who wants to pay payroll and all that stuff, but nonetheless, that, you know, is something that I think we've missed along the way. And I think about this with regard to GPS. How many people know how to read a map anymore? How many people understand how to even navigate in a street? How many people pick up the Wyoming map that has all those cool features about historic places? And I think if we're not careful with AI, we're going to end up in a situation where we are not doing a good job of using it to improve our lives, but we're just doing the things that it's capable of doing, and it's a feedback loop. So having said that, I also think that there's extraordinary opportunities just in building the infrastructure, maintaining the infrastructure, and then improving it over time. But again, I think we're going to end up, you know, until AI starts answering AI and then getting criticized by AI, I think there is probably an upper limit to what the saturation is going to be. And so I then think it's going to be really important that we have workforce that understands how to employ it to get jobs done. And that, you know, sky's the limit on how we look at that. So good luck with that.
Great.
Yeah.
Any other questions for our governor?
I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being an advocate for the people and the workforce. We're up here with the carpenters and millwrights, recruiting students and children out of this area that we work with Job Corps regularly. So our commitment is to the Wyoming workforce. We're here to make that happen. I've been in Gillette for quite some time. These guys have been down in Casper and Cheyenne. So we're headed to state. We want to have a strong workforce here, so that way kids can stay here, have a good living, and, you know, come back to mom and dad, you know. So
Yeah,
I want to thank you for that.
awesome. You got any thoughts on AI and how it's gonna?
Yeah, but it's beneficial for us, in the pipelines and everything, tracking down anything, but
Yeah,
when it comes to replacing the workforce, there's gonna be certain jobs that it will take over. But that's up to us to make sure we ensure we protect our citizens, and hey, we can implement the human aspect to the AI.
yeah,
Like you said, it should be a complement, it should not be a replacement.
yeah. Excellent, thanks. All right,
Great.
thank you, sir.
Well,
Thank
give it a
you all.
warm welcome to Governor. All right, well, some great words from our governor. So now we will go into our agenda. So again, welcome to Riverton. Just, I guess we got some great guests in the public audience, was awesome. We've got some new council members that I'm really excited to welcome today. We all know housekeeping stuff. We've got the restrooms that are just down this hallway. We do have a scheduled break, and then we will be triggering the Job Corps Center after our agenda today. So that's going to be good. And I do believe at this point, everyone here and everyone online can hear us. We're all good. All right. Let's go ahead and kick it off with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you wouldn't mind standing, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so we're gonna move into our first agenda item, which is gonna be roll calls and introductions. So what I would like you to do is as Jennifer calls your name for roll call, go ahead and respond, but also just a sentence or two of who you are, what you represent. We do have new council members here today, so I would actually have one additional question. If this is your first workforce council meeting, is why are you here? What made you apply to the workforce, or what gets you most excited to be a part of this team? So those of you who already got one additional question. Your introduction. So homework is already being assigned. All right, so Jennifer, would you mind doing our roll call introductions, please?
Governor Mark Gordon or designee.
Present, and I am Senior Policy Advisor, Lauren Schoenfeld, Senior Policy Advisor for Governor Gordon. I work on workforce development, economic development, broadband, and then I also run the Wyoming Innovation Partnership that you heard the governor talk about a little bit ago. So welcome. I'm excited to work with all of you.
Senator Don Stockstetter. Representative McKay Erickson. Chair Eric Trowbridge.
Present, yes, Chair Eric Trowbridge, or ET for short, and I'm your chairman. And I also am the Director of Development for Enterprise Applications for Blue Federal Credit Union.
Vice Chair Michael Kircher.
Present. Hello, everyone. I'm Michael Kircher. I'm the vice chair. I am the operations section manager at the NCAR Wyoming Supercomputing Center in Cheyenne, Wyoming. I enjoy working with all of you.
Ryan Bledsoe. Tony Cross.
Hey, I'm sorry. I'm just I'm online. I'm Ryan.
Larry Fodor.
Ryan Bledsoe, if you can hear me.
Present. Larry Fodor, Vice President of Mechanical Systems out of Cheyenne, current board president of the Wyoming Construction Coalition. And I'm here because we are desperate for a Wyoming workforce right now, especially in the trades, and CTE education around the state.
I see that Ryan Bledsoe is online.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys are picking me up in the room or not. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Ryan Bledsoe. Going back, I'm the president of Industrial Systems Consulting, a Wyoming-based staffing firm where we specialize in project and construction management. Workforce solutions, primarily into industrial clients in the mining, energy, and manufacturing sectors. I'm a professional mechanical engineer with over 2 decades of experience within industry, new to the council, and sincerely appreciative for the opportunity and the appointment. I work closely with the team in the Southwest Wyoming Manufacturing Partnership, which is the next gen sector partnership, which I'm sure everybody's heard quite a bit about from Mr. Ron Wild. But yeah, new to the council. I've already received a really warm welcome from everybody. So that's, I'm super grateful for that and thankful. What I'm really looking forward to is just working to bring industry to the table for a workforce development effort. So we've seen some great success in Southwest Wyoming doing that. And I want to see how we can expand not only our industry influence, but work with our community partners to engage with the students across the state and let them know about the opportunities that are here. And there's quite a bit of them. One thing that I've found is that students just have been struggling to become aware of where to get that information from. So trying to bridge that gap, I think, is a great effort, and I'm looking forward to helping out in that space. Thanks, everyone.
Taylor Timmis.
Present. Hello, everyone. My name is Taylor Timmis. So excited for this appointment. And honored. Thank you for all the warm welcomes already. I'm the executive director at the Wyoming Construction Coalition. I'm born and raised here in Wyoming and have had the privilege to not only work for workforce services, but in private industry as well. So just really excited to bring some of my previous experience to the council and continue to be a part of the solutions in a positive way. So thank you, everyone.
Bria Hammock.
Present. My name is Bria Hammock. It's nice to see everyone today. I'm a vice president of marketing at Madden, which is a travel and tourism marketing agency. And in addition to that, I own a fine art gallery in downtown Cheyenne.
Katie Hogarty. Travis Lawrence.
I'm present and I'm the market president of First Northern Bank in Buffalo, Wyoming. Represent private industry on the council and the financial services sector. I'm also chairman of the Strategic Performance and Finance Committee. So for those of you that are new members looking for a subcommittee, I'll shamelessly make a ploy to consider the Strategic Performance and Finance Committee. Thank you.
Deborah Zolnowski.
Present. I'm Debbie Zolnowski, and I'm from the Holiday Inn Express in Gillette, Wyoming.
Wendy Fiskett John.
Present. Hi, I'm Wendy. I am the owner of DF Safety Consulting in Gillette.
Danny Bureau.
Present. My name is Danny Bureau. I run a small restaurant in Saratoga, Wyoming, and also chair the currently communications committee, soon to be something else. So whatever Travis says, you're probably going to want to be on my committee.
Charles Wilson.
Present. Charles Wilson. I live in Lander and I'm a psychotherapist. My practice is Wind River Family Therapy. And my wife and I started an organization called the Soldiers House of Fremont County, which is right here in Riverton. And so I'm on the board as representative for Veterans in Wyoming. Thank you.
Tina Conley.
Present. Hi, everybody. I am Tina Conley. I'm the executive director of iReach 2 here in Casper. We are a service provider for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And that is the segment or the sector that I represent on the council.
Nathan Williams. Philip Cornella.
Present, Bill Cornella. I represent the International Union Operating Engineers, business manager for Wyoming Operating Engineers, Wyoming Construction Trades Council, and the AFL-CIO. Thanks.
Brenda Morgan.
Yes, present. I'm Brenda Morgan. I am the training director for the Wyoming Statewide Electrical Apprenticeship Program based in Casper, Wyoming, and I've been on the council since 2019.
Dan Meyer.
Hello, I'm Dan Meyer. I'm the training director for the plumbers and pipe fitters and HVAC service technicians. Local 192, we're based out of Cheyenne, but we cover the whole state of Wyoming, the west half of South Dakota, and the panhandle of Nebraska. Thank you.
Matthew Davis.
Present. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Matt Davis. I'm the center director at the Wind River Job Corps. Appreciated my colleagues' comments about our program and the direction we think we're going. I'm excited that you all will get to have a tour of the center later today, and so we're looking forward to that.
Mayor Shay Lenval.
Present. My name is Shay Lenval. I'm the mayor of Gillette, and I'm just excited to be a part of this. So thank you for the opportunity and helping to solve some problems here across the state and what we can do together.
Commissioner Peter Nicolason.
Present. Peter Nicolason. I'm a county commissioner in Natrona County. I've been a county commissioner for 3 years. I am a retired real estate and business attorney. My brother and I run the family ranch. The governor, I think, wanted county commissioner representation on the council. So I'm excited to be here because over the 25 plus years of my law practice, representing small and medium-sized businesses, the one constant refrain was we need workers and especially good workers. And so whatever I can do to facilitate that, both in Natrona County and for our state, is a win. Thanks.
Director Elizabeth Gagan.
Hello, I am Liz Gagan, and I am the director of the Department of Workforce Services. I've been the director for a little over a year, and prior to that, I was a deputy director for about 4 years.
Dr. Ben Mortz, or designee.
Hi there, I'm the Deputy Director and Chief Academic and Student Services Officer with the Wyoming Community College Commission. And I'm representing Adult Ed.
Nikki Harper.
I'm present. Good afternoon. I'm sorry, my camera seems to be off. I am the Administrator for Vocational Rehabilitation. I have been with the division for a long time and been in the administrator for about 6 years, and I represent individuals with disabilities and expertise in disabilities and employment. Thank you.
Superintendent Degenfelder or designee.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Michelle Aldrich. I am the superintendent's designee, and I serve as the Career and Technical Education Director for the Wyoming Department of Education, overseeing career and technical education, kindergarten through 14.
Director Corinne Schmidt or designee. Josh Durrell or designee. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer. And once again, welcome to all of our new council members. Really excited to have you. I mean, when you think about all the backgrounds that each of you bring to this council, it's really cool to see the new folks and what they also will bring to the table to have more perspective around Wyoming's workforce. So once again, welcome, welcome, welcome. We're going to go ahead and move on to our very first voting item of the day, which is the approval of the agenda. So you've now had at least over a week to review our minutes and our agenda. I also did a video for you to make sure you knew where the agenda was and what we'll be talking about today. So hopefully you've had an opportunity to look at that agenda. So at this point, I would welcome a motion to approve the agenda as written.
So moved.
Oh, looks like moved by Dan Meyer. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right.
That was
Seconded
my
by
voice the
Mr.
first
Bureau.
too, so that's why I was confused.
All right. So motion by, okay, great. And all in favor, please say aye.
Right.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the approval of the agenda as stands has happened. The next approval item we've got coming up is our January minutes. That was our last committee as a whole meeting. So I will also welcome a motion to approve those minutes as written.
So moved.
All right, so moved by Lauren Schoenfeld. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, seconded by Vice Chair Michael Kirscher. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the approval of the January minutes has been completed. All right, so I'm just going to take, now we're moving on to the next agenda item, which is message from the chairman. So I just wrote some really quick bullets for you all today before we kind of jump into all of our jam-packed agenda. The first one is, we heard from Governor Gordon this morning, and I thought about it a lot last night. We as a council and as a state, we do have some very unique opportunities and challenges that are going to be facing us over the next couple of years from many different fronts. We heard a lot about those challenges at our NGA conference, we'll go into a little bit about, but we also have other challenges as well. So kind of what Governor Gordon was saying is really using this as an opportunity to kind of forge like new ideas and new imagination on how do we solve some really difficult problems in different ways that maybe we hadn't thought about before. But the first kind of quick updates from the national level. So as Wyoming is a member of what's called the NGA. The NGA is the National Governors Association. If you are a vice chair, a chair, or an executive director of a state workforce board, you are automatically a member of the NGA. And we meet twice a year. We have 2 symposiums. We have a symposium in March. We have a symposium in a state that hosts us. And Jennifer and I were in DC in March to hear from. It's a really amazing opportunity. I get to meet all of the other state chairs around in the country and in the territory. So it's really amazing to hear from Wisconsin and Maine and you name it, Guam, like everyone's there. And we're talking through a lot of the same stuff. How are we building our workforce in Maryland? And what are you guys doing? It's such an amazing opportunity to connect. The 2 themes that really kind of were sticking out to a lot of us that were as state chairs. First and foremost, obviously that was back in March. And so the tariff situation was kind of, we didn't really know what's going on. It felt like every hour something was changing. We had a bunch of senators and representatives and policymakers that looked like they had been working 72 hours straight. They were very tired and weren't able to give a lot of direction about what we should be doing as state chairs in preparation for whatever may happen. Obviously over the last couple of months, things have happened and, where they're kind of going in flux, but I just think it's a good reminder that there are definitely some things that, are outside of our control, but we've got to do the best with what we have. And so, even if that has to come to something as far as a potential recession, those are things that were mentioned at the NJ, just dusting off that book, making sure we're ready. There's still a lot of uncertainty there, and hopefully we'll kind of get some clarity there. So really the tariffs, its impact on the economy, its jobs was a really big topic. The second very large topic, which probably, if you've been to any conference recently, has been AI and AI's impact and potential impact on states and workforce and jobs. Of course, no one, once again, really knows exactly what this is going to mean, but we do know it's going to have a fairly significant impact. Every job, every state is going to feel its presence a little bit differently, and especially as the technology continues to evolve very rapidly and very quickly. And so we'll kind of talk about how I would like the Wyoming to kind of be prepared and how to best get the data that we need to make informed decisions. So I'll be talking about that. So the NGA was great. Really, it was about economy and AI. That's all that we were talking about the entire time, and just kind of sinking on some things. And I spoke to the state chair of Wisconsin and got some great information that I would like to bring to this council. So I'll talk more about that here soon. The other thing I do want to let you all know about as well, over the summer, we've got a very busy summer ahead of us as the council. There'll be a lot of behind the scenes work. One of the things I'll be doing as your chair is I will be working on a comprehensive 3-year plan for what the goals and metrics and achievables, like how do we define success on this kind of, like what feels good? What do we need to hit? So over the next couple of 3 to 4 months, I'll have a nice 3-year plan that I'll be presenting to you, and I'll be reconvening our executive committee as well to kind of help me advise and make edits to that executive plan to make sure it's, and really it's about aligning to our state plan to make sure that we're doing and acting on the things that we are here to do. And so really just kind of at super high level, year 1, which starts now and will go until next year, really is about the year of improvements, really making all the operational, organizational improvements that we need to make sure that this council is running well, communication is flowing, people feel like their voices are heard, we're making action. So really I'm looking at year 1 as our year of improvements. Year 2 is really about, I'm thinking, the year of innovation. There are some really cool projects that are starting to bubble, and some of you might even be involved in them. I'd love to kind of see more of those start to happen within the next year. And the last year, year 3, really about the year of imagination. How do we redefine, how do we shape the Wyoming's workforce? What challenges are there? And how do we go bold and big on maybe some initiatives? So year 3 is really about, it's all about the improvements. Then we're going to start some innovation, and then we really want to get into some imagination. So you'll kind of see that theme in our state plan, which I will kind of introduce all of you to when we are in Jackson this fall. Part of that year of improvement, one of the things that we're going to also be working on over this summer is looking at our subcommittees. So all of you know that's where the meat and potatoes of this council happens, is when you are meeting in your monthly subcommittees, you're making decisions, you're working with your colleagues. And I really was trying to ask myself, how do we make it better, more efficient? So we're going to be making a few tweaks to the subcommittee structure starting this fall as well. And first thing that we're going to do, which Danny kind of alluded to. We got I met with some of the other state chairs and we talked about their subcommittees, how many subcommittees do they have, what do they do, what are their roles and responsibility. The good thing is most of the states have almost exactly the same structure. They have a similar strategic performance and finance and next gen sector partnerships. So, but there was one, it was Colorado, I believe we kind of took it from the communications, communications and community relations. It's a mouthful. They just have that subcommittee named advocacy. It's the advocacy subcommittee. That's what you do. We advocate on behalf of the Wyoming workforce. We advocate on behalf of the WWDC brand and the Department of Workforce Services. So we'll do a quick name change. That will change this fall to the advocacy subcommittee. And the other thing that some of you may also know as well, looking at kind of how our subcommittees are weighted. There's quite a a teeter-totter of we've got quite a few people here, not quite enough people there. And the reason why that's important is because it can be sometimes difficult if your subcommittee does not have quorum to get business done and to get the stuff that we need to get through. So one thing that we will also be working on over the summer is kind of an equalizing of the subcommittees to make sure that each subcommittee has an equal amount of representation and that you are on the subcommittee that you feel at this moment that you would best contribute to. And how that's going to work is we're going to send out a survey later this summer that will kind of like do a stack rank. Like if you have a preference of which subcommittee you would like to be a part of, we'll do our best to get you into the subcommittee that you want. But I think from a business perspective and for us actually being actionable and making change, we need equal representation across all of our subcommittees. The other thing that we will be working on as far as subcommittee enhancements is we are going to formally charter each subcommittee. So by the time that we reconvene in Jackson, each subcommittee will have a formal charter. There will be very clear goals, what the purpose of that subcommittee is, what are the measurables, et cetera. So trying to bring a little bit more clarity to what's the role of the subcommittee and what are you responsible for. So we're going to be creating those charters over the summer, and we'll invite obviously all of you to participate and give feedback on the charters as we create them. So we should have a fully chartered subcommittee structure, equalized balance of subcommittees that will begin this fall. Hopefully that'll make our work as we take on some big tasks a little bit easier for all of us. So the last thing I want to talk about before we move on to our next agenda item. Well, actually, there's one last thing that I'm trying to think which order do I do it. One I will, because we're kind of talking about subcommittees. Something that obviously, as you all know, I'm very passionate about technology. I'm very, very close to AI all the time. I actually run all the AI programs for Blue Federal, so I'm right there on the pulse of what's happening. And one thing that really stood out to me at the NGA meeting in Wisconsin is that the governor of Wisconsin actually created an executive order to create a subcommittee or a task force per se that would stand up for 1 year to research AI's impact on the state of Wisconsin. What jobs were most, where basically they were using that data to where do we apply all of our wonderful programs. Who needs upskilling? Where do we put this money to get those people ready to upskill into AI or et cetera? And so they actually just completed that task force, wrapped up this past July. And I took a read of it, and it's fascinating. The data is absolutely wow. And it's allowing the state of Wisconsin to make a lot of really great informed decisions about how the workforce may evolve over the next, and we're not talking like a long time. We're talking about like the next couple of years, like 5-10 years. And so what I'll be announcing today, and more information to follow probably in June of next month, is I'm going to create a special task force. The first time this council's kind of put together a subcommittee of committees per se. It will stand up for a year, and this will be our AI task force. And I'll be looking for 5 to 7 council members who are interested in exploring this field and its impacts on Wyoming and the cities and our people and how it's going to affect things. I have a lot of examples of what that looks like in other states, but I think it's time for Wyoming to also just be a little bit more aware of that and make sure we have that stuff as what's going to happen so we can get prepared. So I do have goals and actionables for that. That committee will go on for 1 year. So that committee will kind of convene, first of all, in June. I'll put that all together for you. If you're interested, feel free to talk to me. If you're interested in joining the AI task force. And then that committee will dissolve in a year from now, where they will present their final report about AI and AI's impact on Wyoming's workforce. So I'll be creating that committee, so stay tuned for updates there if you'd like to be a part of that. And then last, you were going to hear about in our agenda, the Forge Your Future campaign is we have a press release going out today at 4 p.m. So we're super excited about that. There's been a lot of behind the scenes work. Danny and I were doing some of the marketing materials for a video this morning, and it really just kind of resonated with me about, and especially with what Governor Gordon was talking about, is Wyoming wants you. We want you. We really, really want you, right? Whether you are in Wyoming and you want to stay, but you don't think that there are job opportunities and growth areas, that's not true. And that's kind of what the whole purpose of the Forge Your Future campaign is to say, no, there's lots of great stories, a lot of great things. There's all kinds of things you can do. So not only do we want you to stay, but we also need to make it an environment where if people want to move to Wyoming and become part of our workforce and join in, we want you to. So really, that's kind of the theme behind the Forge Your Future is Wyoming wants you, we need you, and we've got plenty of resources and great minds around this council to help figure those really big, challenging problems out. So those are my updates today. Looking forward to more discussion, but feel free to ask me any and all questions. And with that, I will hand it over to our director, Liz Gagan, for an update on the Department of Workforce Services.
Thank you, Chairman Trowbridge. So again, as mentioned, I am the director of the Department of Workforce Services, and I'm so thankful for Jennifer sending out the survey and for you all kind of posing questions about information that you'd like to know, because that really helps me, know what to update everybody on. I would say really kind of the theme of the questions, and I'll go through them one by one, are about funding and what we may know about funding cuts and those types of issues. So the first thing to let you know, since we met last, the legislative session concluded and there were no changes to our biennial budget. So we do have a, funding, a reliable state anyway, funding source through June 30th of 2026. But the next legislative session, we will be, going through the Joint Appropriations Committee and hoping to get then another biennial budget fixed. But we're a bit away from that right now. So the first question was, what programs are funded at the federal level that have received cuts, and which ones are expecting cuts? As of now, none of our WIOA programs or grants that we receive have been cut. But which ones are expecting to be cut is kind of another interesting question. So what we know right now is the White House has put out what it calls its skinny budget. And to my understanding, by the end of May, there should be more detail to where a lot of the White House's proposed budget cuts are going to come from. But it is important to know that the skinny budget is a proposal from the White House, and that both houses of Congress have to pass whatever the next federal budget will be, which will include some of these proposed cuts. So what we know from the skinny budget is that the Department of Labor is proposed to take 35% cut, which amounts to about $4.6 billion. And the skinny budget did detail a proposal for all but $1 billion of those dollars. The first proposed cut is for the Senior Community Service Employment Program, or what we call CSEP. It's $405 million. That the cut would be to eliminate the program. I will say in Wyoming, we don't get enough money from the federal government to run the program that they require us to run. So we have to use some other funding sources to do that. And really the program, we don't have great metrics. So that if they were to cut that wouldn't really cause us problems, and any clients or participants that we may have, we can still serve them in many other ways. The second proposal is the one that Phil brought up, and this is a big one, and this would be to eliminate all of the Job Corps. The amount is $1.5 billion. I mean, this would be difficult. I believe that Job Corps helps many youth, and if there are perhaps some changes that can be made, maybe. But it's, I guess, kind of an interesting part of history where we do get to go to Job Corps and we get to see some of the youth that it serves, and kind of really get a good perspective about what that may mean for Wyoming. Then the next cut that was laid out in the skinny budget is what's been called the Make America Skilled Again grant consolidation, which is supposed to account for about $1.6 billion in savings. I really don't know exactly what this means. I'm assuming it means that there are a lot of competitive grants that the Department of Labor puts out, and they're going to consolidate those grants and make some cuts. Wyoming typically doesn't receive competitive grants from DOL, so we don't really know. But the maybe positive part of that is that it's supposed to allow states more flexibility on what they do with dollars that they get from DOL. It says that states will have to spend at least 10% of any Make America Skilled Again grant on apprenticeships, which is fantastic. We will hear from our business training and support unit about what Wyoming is doing with apprenticeships. And we love apprenticeships, so that would be welcome news. Again, with those specific cuts, there's still $1 billion that's out there. I don't know where that's coming from. I mean, we do know that there have been very massive job cuts at DOL, so perhaps some of that is included. But right now we don't know, and kind of wait to see what that full budget may look like. I do want to point out that Adult Basic Ed is one of our core partners, and the skinny budget does include a $729 million cut to Adult Basic Ed. I don't know what that may look like for Wyoming, but that would be hard as well.
Mr. Chairman?
Oh, great, Dr. Ballard.
We will eliminate federal funding for adult ed, which is at least half of our funding for adult ed. And it would likely close right now 3 of our centers and greatly reduce services everywhere else.
Thank you, Dr. Ballard.
I think the audio at the very beginning, Dr. Ballard, do you mind just saying that one more time for clarification, please?
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The cuts from adult ed would remove all federal funding. It would completely defund adult ed across the nation. From the federal side, it's pretty close to a 50-50 match in Wyoming, so we would lose half of the funding then for adult ed, which would close at least 3 of our centers and greatly reduce the capacity of the other ones, or the other 5.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, to
kind of going back really quickly to apprenticeships. Currently, we have 1 Department of Labor apprenticeship grant, which will expire on June 30th of this year, but we have 2 grant applications submitted, and we expect to hear whether they are granted sometime in June. The first one is for a base formula grant, which unless something is changed, it's not a given, but kind of a given. And but we've also submitted a competitive grant asking for $1 million, and we would use that to cover 50% of an apprentice's wages up to $1,000. And then also kind of moving on to pre-apprenticeships and seeking $1,000 in support services for pre-apprenticeship participants. And then the next question was what kind of strategies are being implemented within the Department of Workforce Services to help ensure consistent services can be maintained during these current unpredictable economic times for federally funded entities. I will say it's hard. The main strategy is keeping up on what all the proposed cuts are. I mean, one strategy is just with the CSEP program. We typically receive that funding in June. We have asked the Department of Labor whether we have to accept that grant, because in the past we've told that we do have to accept it. If we could learn soon that we didn't need to accept that award, we could start to transition those clients and participants and be able to use other services to help them. So anytime we learn of these things, you know, sometimes maybe there's something we can do, maybe there's not, but we are keeping well abreast of what the potential changes are. But there's just so many unknowns. It's difficult, I think, to have very many specific strategies. And then the next question was, are there any new programs in the works? And as the governor mentioned, we are going to start kind of working with the National Guard as the troops come home. So we will have some troops be coming home in the fairly near future. And we are discussing, you know, what I would probably call a campaign to help get them, you know, re-engaged with being back, but also kind of letting them know of what other, you know, opportunities may be out there. Certainly the Forge Your Future campaign is a great way for some of them who may be thinking about changing jobs to learn what other jobs may be out there that kind of resonate with them. And we will be working with the Guard to help welcome our troops home and let them know of all the services that we are able to provide them. And this is one of those opportunities that we haven't really done in the past. And I guess, you know, generally speaking, when people in the Guard are in the Guard, they generally do have other jobs. But for whatever reason, this time when the governor and General Porter were visiting with the troops, they just heard a lot of uncertainty about coming back. So we want to make sure they feel supported and that they know what we can do to help them if they need to make a career or a job change. And then the last question was, are there any programs or processes in place to work directly with large private sector employers in the state or to plan for future large employers? And all of our workforce centers have business reps, and any of our business reps can work with any business, whether it be a large business or a small business. But there's really not a specific program geared towards large employers. But then kind of outside of the workforce center side of it, our BTSU Business Training and Support Unit people will be talking with us, and they do have some programs and things that they do with large employers, and they will be able to explain those to you later. So those were the questions that there were. Does anyone have any specific questions for me? Yes. I have not.
Bill, real quick, microphone. You just make sure when you are talking so that the Zoom folks can hear, just make sure you have your microphone turned on.
Yeah, I was just going to say, there's an organization that we work with called Helmets to Hard Hats, and they essentially take service members and help them find jobs all over the country. So not just Wyoming, but really anywhere. So
Wonderful. Thank you.
yeah, yes, ma'am.
Any other council questions for Director Gagan?
Just have a comment.
Yeah, sure, Dr. Aldrich.
Chairman Trowbridge, through you, I just wanted to say that there is also a huge national program called Troops to Teachers that PTSB has created a pathway for returning military members or military members who are exiting from the military to become classroom teachers. And with career and technical education teachers and teachers being in short supply in Wyoming, that may be a really valid opportunity. And that's on their PTSB website.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Aldrich. Wonderful. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions or comments for Director Gagan? Great. Thank you, Director Gagan, for those updates. All right, moving on to agenda item number 6. We're going to be going over our spending plan and expenditures, which will be presented to us by Jennifer Cassidy. And Jennifer, are you ready?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
This is a
I'm
voting
ready.
item, so we're looking at our budget to approve it. So there you are, Jennifer. Hello. Good to
Hello,
see you.
can you all hear me in the room?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Perfect. And I will send a request to share my screen, or if someone in the room wants to share the budget. And it is available in everyone's training or meeting materials also. Let's see, I should be able to share now. Here we go. Okay. So we are taking a look here at our third quarter budget for fiscal year 2025. For the new members, for the WIOA funding, which the council is funded through, we get a new grant every single year, and we have 3 years to spend those funds. So you'll see here our current available grant funding, and we've got some information here about the total budget, the amount that has been spent or obligated, and the amount remaining, as well as the spend by date. So right now, kind of going back to what Director Gagan was saying, we're waiting on our next round of funding for grant year 25, but we have $516,000 available in council funding that has not been spent or obligated. On the obligations, I'll scroll down here at the bottom. We've got a breakdown of what each of those projects are and the total, as well as the expiration date of the contract or agreement. Scrolling back up here, as I said, we're looking at quarter 3. We've got numbers here also including quarter 1 and 2, so we can see a comparison of there. We're kind of right in the middle of those two as far as expenditures. Nothing out of the ordinary as far as expenditures. And I will pause here for any questions on the council set aside before I move on to the agency budgets.
Any questions from council? Go ahead, Jennifer.
Okay. On the next screen here, we've just got some more information on the agency side of the WIOA funding for the youth, adult, and dislocated worker programs, broken out by administration expenditures, operations, and then the participant dollars. So again, we've got our budget, the amount spent, and the amount obligated, and any remaining amounts there. And then on the next tab, this will look similar to the council's budget. Again, up here, we've got our operating expenditures, admin, participants, the prospective quarters, and then a breakdown of the expenditures into the different categories there. The total for the quarter was just over 978,000. And we can see the comparison of that to quarter 1 and 2. Nothing, I wouldn't say concerning about the lower expenditures in that quarter, kind of average for the expenditures to vary a little bit. And Mr. Chairman, I believe that was everything I wanted to highlight, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer. All right, any council discussion? Oh, that echo. I know. Okay. Yeah, any council discussion or questions around our spending plan or expenditure? And also just as a reminder, I know it's probably nearly impossible to see this on the screen up here. So make sure you have onboard pulled up, whether it's on your phone or your computer, so you can look at these numbers. So any council discussion or questions? All right. I don't hear any questions, Jennifer. So you did a great job. Yeah, my number one question is make sure if you didn't see anything that was a little bit off or misleading or something that we should be concerned about. So, and that's what you're reporting back to us today?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, cool. All right, well, at this point, then I will accept a motion to approve our spending plan and expenditures as presented to the council.
So moved.
All right, moved by Mr. Vice Chair, Mr. Kircher. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, seconded by Bria Hammock. Great. Before we vote, any last minute council discussion? Hearing none, all in favor,
Mr.
please
Chairman,
say yes.
I do have one
Mr.
thing.
Kircher.
I just want to give a shout out to the whole finance team. They've been working with us a lot on the strategic and performance, kind of dialing in a better way to show our expenditures, especially around the projects, when they're going to be completed, how much is spent. So I just thank you very much.
Yeah, I will echo that. We had a conversation not too long ago around looking at council budget, getting it better organized. And yeah, you guys have you've always just been such a fantastic team to work with and making sure we stay in compliance and we know where all the money's going and how it's being spent. Kind of important, right? Nice. Great. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Any other further council discussion? All right. All in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. The approval of our spending plan and expenditures has passed. Moving on to our next agenda item, we're going to be agenda item number 7 is the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, the fiscal year 25 funding model, and that's going to be presented to us by our one and only Trevor Mansfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today, I'm here to bring you your annual funding model. The council chooses how much they take. The law allows up to 15% of the funds that we get for the WIOA youth, adult, and dislocated worker programs. The recommendation that we brought to the Strategic Performance and Finance Committee was at the full 15%. Just a note, if you've looked at the memo, the amounts on there are based off the estimates that were released by DOL in December. And as we all know, there's been many changes since then, so we are still awaiting our application guidance for these funds. So just wanted to point that out, that this is not set in stone at this point, as we're still awaiting the grant application period. And with that, we'll stand for any questions.
Any questions for Trevor regarding the annual funding model? Yes, Jennifer.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, this is Jennifer. I just wanted to add that the reason why we bring this forward, even when we don't have solid numbers, is because we can't move forward without the council's approval on the funding model for what you're taking. So this action allows the agency to, once we receive the award, to directly disperse it as the council has dictated. And so that is also why the voting item is a percentage, so that if the numbers are lower, we could hope for higher, but I can be an optimist right now. But 15, that's why it's 15% and why we do it now.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer. And just to clarify, I see on here that suggestion motion is basically the motion is to reserve the full 15% of funds for council purposes from the WIOA adult, dislocated worker, and youth programs for fiscal year 2025 funds. So taking the max amount, correct? All right. Any questions before I welcome a motion or clarification? Brenda?
Mr. Chairman, I so move.
All right. So moved by Brenda Morgan. Do I have a second?
I second.
All right, just seconded by Wendy. Any last minute council discussion? Great, to approve the PY25 annual funding model as it stands, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the annual funding model does pass. Thank you, Trevor. All right, next up, we have agenda item number 8, which we do have a few funding requests that have come into the council for review, and they've been brought to you all here as a committee as a whole to hear about them, review them, and then make your decision. And so this is going to be the Wyoming Workforce Development funding request, and this can be presented to us by, I do believe we have 2 funding requests that we're approving. Is it 2 or? You have a bunch. Okay, so we've got a bunch of things to review and vote on. So I'll hand it over to Jennifer to get us started.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, I bring before you 2 items that are for council purposes. The first request is for $45,000 for the ability to add a year to the Northern Illinois University evaluations contract. The evaluations are a required activity of the council. This is something that you're mandated to do under the WIOA Act. We have been working with Northern Illinois University to provide the evaluations in the following report to keep us in compliance with WIOA and U.S. Department of Labor. To do this, we require $45,000. So that is request number 1. Request number 2 is for promotional material for Forge Your Future. Now, the reason why we're asking for this is because it needs to be outside of the ARPA funding, because that has a very specific use. So to promote Forge Your Future with our partners throughout the state, and we learn about new ones all the time, we are requesting $4,154.85 to purchase 10,000 rack cards and 3,750 stickers. So the plan is to distribute these promotional materials to high schools, colleges, adult basic education centers, to provide these to the Guard for our returning service members and our local workforce centers. But as we quickly find out every time we talk about Forge Your Future, more entities would like those materials to share with the public at large. So this is just a right now request, but I can definitely see how 10,000 rack cards might not be enough, but we'll just ask for more money later.
All right, thank you, Jennifer, for presenting. I just got kind of interesting that the governor mentioned the service members returning, and using the Forge Your Future as a way to hey, here's all the different opportunities. It's a really great way, I think, to brand that. But could you just also really quickly, for those of us that are new or just need a refresher, what is the NIU evaluations contract?
So again, as I stated, the council is charged with, it's mandatory. We've had some findings in the past for not being in compliance with providing conducting evaluations of our Title I, so basically the Adult Dislocated Worker and Youth Program. And so NIU does both the evaluation of our data, but also does interviews with our staff to make sure that we are providing services according to WIOA. Also, we have talked with Northern Illinois University about also tracking our business services and trying to make sure that the legislature, the new administration, and USDOL understand that we are providing both services, both to participants and to our business community at large. This is $45,000, which, as many of you know, especially as business owners, this is less than a full-time position. They have also not increased their price since we started working with them. It's just been $45,000 every year. They're also considered the gold standard for providing evaluations throughout the state or throughout the country. I know specifically Colorado and of course Illinois uses them, but I have found that they work with other states as well.
Great, thanks for clarifying. And how long have we partnered with them so long?
This will make our 3rd year.
3rd year, okay, great. Questions from council about any of these WWDC funding requests? And as a point of clarification, Trevor, do we need to vote individually on these or all together? That's fine.
It's up to you.
Discussion. If there's no discussion, then we'll loop them together. If there's discussion, we'll break them up. All right, you're all very quiet. Okay, so I will welcome a motion. The motion is going to be to approve the NIU evaluations contract extension for another year at the total cost of $45,000 to do that required reporting for us, as well as to provide promotional material for the Forge Your Future campaign. That's going to include rack cards and stickers equaling about $4,154.85. So I will welcome a motion to move forward with those funding requests.
Mr. Chairman, I so move.
All right, so moved by Brenda Morgan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Danny Bureau. Any last minute council discussion? All right, all in favor of approving these two funding requests, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? All right, these funding requests have been approved. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, these ones we will break apart. So if you're following along on board, this is section, I don't know. It's grant requests. 9. So the first one is, so these are entities requesting funds from the WWDC. So the first request is from the Southwest Manufacturing Partnership to continue their next gen sector partnership activities. They primarily do an outreach campaign. So they have, well, we'll call it a campaign. So they travel around to the high schools in that area. They bring in speakers and at each high school and talk about the occupations, specifically construction and manufacturing, to make sure that both parents are involved and students to talk about those job opportunities in the Southwest. So they go to 5 different high schools in their region. This also is a request to continue their newsletter and their social media presence. They've also now moved to another stage in their next gen journey, and they've created their own 501c3. So they're self-sufficient. They're not using another entity to be their fiscal agent for these kind of grants. And so they will be paying a person to administer their next gen outreach and to continue the partnership and to continue to grow the partnership. I stand for any questions on this grant application.
No, is there anyone actually here in the room that is part of this partnership or worked with this partnership before?
Ryan's online.
Oh, yeah, if Ryan's still there, yeah. It's, just at a high level, I do believe, this partnership has done a really incredible job. They've really, truly, one of the I wouldn't say the end goal, there is no end goal of the partnerships, but to be able to get to a level of maturity with a sector partnership, to be able to get the 501c3 and going, that's a pretty big deal, so to see these guys really take ownership of it. And, and I read through all of the employer support letters. It's really great. They have such a strong, awesome, positive presence in Southwest Wyoming. So just wanted to someone here, great job, really great job.
And so, sorry for that. This is a request for $15,000.
Cool. Any other council discussion for the funding request in front of us, the grant request?
Mr. Chair, this is Brenda Morgan.
Brennan?
Southwest Manufacturing, do you know how many times have they requested money from us?
From my knowledge, this is their second grant request that they have. They had one, they currently have a grant. And then now they're requesting $15,000 for next year. So whatever they don't use from their current grant that expires on June 30th will go back into the council budget. Which really, if this is approved, we just move that in. Yeah.
And
So
then
they're just getting 15,000. They don't get to carry over their current amount into next year. It'll just be 15,000 for next year.
And then as far as reporting, what kind of reporting have you given us for success as far as this outreach program?
So let me find that. They do have reporting. They have to report at the Next Gen Sector Partnership. They have to report on their best practices. So they always do that. They also have to report how many students attend. They have to report, let let me see. I'd have to look at their grant. There's 3 things that they have to do for success, or to give us measurements really of what they're using these funds for. But again, sector partnership support grants are really about supporting the partnership, not necessarily like our workforce support grants have different metrics.
So as far as other funding, the only other funding they have is the cash kind donation from Rocky Mountain Power. Is that correct?
Actually, that's a great question. Because they have moved now to a 501c3 and they have grander ambitions, they're also starting to embark on fundraising efforts. In fact, if any of us want to drive to Rock Springs, I think it's this weekend or it's in the next couple weekends, they're doing a golf tournament. And so they're also working on other funding opportunities to grow this partnership. I don't know if they'll get to a place where they never ask for money from the council, but they're definitely making sure that the structure is there to continue to grow.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you, Jennifer. Any other council discussion around this grant request? All right, hearing none, I will then accept a motion to approve the Southwest Manufacturing Partnership Next Gen grant application for $15,000. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Director Gagan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Danny Bureau. Last minute council discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the funding request for the Southwest Manufacturing Partnership Next Gen grant application has been approved. All right, and next up we have a grant application for LIFT Wyoming, so 2025 LIFT Workforce System Support Grant application. So Jennifer, you want to present that?
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, I'm pulling it up real quick. There is a caveat to this grant application. This grant has also been submitted to USDOL to make sure that the items requested in this grant application are allowable expenses. They are continuing to look at it. So they've done a first pass through, gave us some questions, sent it on. I didn't see any problems with the concept of funding LIFT Wyoming. They have some questions about specific items. So if this grant application were to be approved, it would still be conditional on DOL's approval. And so any agreement that we do with them would only include items that USDOL and our fiscal team have deemed allowable expenses. So this request is really for a not to exceed their requested $33,300. The LIFT Wyoming project is an initiative, so ET, feel free to jump in because you've been a part of this. It's an initiative that started in Casper, where again, it's about bringing or keeping our youth here in Wyoming. So it's a conference that they hold every year to talk to high school students, but they're branching out to other age brackets about staying in Wyoming and the great job opportunities that are available here in Wyoming. So they bring in speakers from industry. That's why I mentioned ET can jump in because he has spoke at the LIFT conference before. They're also branching out and bringing students from outside of Casper. They had 15 students from Green River just attend. They just had their conference for last year's grant. So last year we gave them a grant and they just had their conference, I believe last week or the week before. And they continue to recruit outside of the Casper area to bring more students to the state because the teachers that run this program are really passionate about seeing their students successful here in Wyoming, about not losing our talent to other states. So they are also requesting some funds for, they call it an executive director, but we're probably going to change that to program director. We've been paying for social media in the previous grants, professional services, those are the speakers that they bring into this conference, and some very minimal supplies, so their booklets and stuff like that. LIFT Wyoming has many sponsors. It's towards they've listed these in their grant application, but they have several sponsors, and those sponsors pay for items that the WIOA grant can't pay for, such as T-shirts and other promotional material that they use. So I stand for questions on, and they have metrics in the back. They're starting in the back of their application. So because of their grant last year, they actually started gathering more data so that they can report out on what's happening with the students that attend their conference. So you can see on pages 14 and beyond, they talk about the students that come and the different areas that they come from. So Glen Rock High School, Roosevelt, Green River, and the Casper High Schools. And then it talks about the careers that they're interested in, and that helps them match up some of those speakers to really emphasize that we have those occupations here in Wyoming. I would say a big chunk of the careers most of the students who attend this conference are interested in are healthcare and medicine, but there are slivers for engineering and education, energy, marketing. So some of them plan to go to military. They're really capturing a lot more data than they have in the past. And part of that is through their ability to do that from our funding that we've supplied them for the last year. Again, this is an up to, because we will not write any contract or agreement with Lift Wyoming for items that would not be considered allowable expenses.
Great, thank you, Jennifer. And Travis, you have a question?
Yes, thank you. Just to add to some of Jennifer's comments, the discussion at the Strategic Performance and Finance Committee in regards to this, the request this year was higher than last year, and it was because of that program's director position. And I don't know, as someone that analyzes grants, I never like to see operations flow into the grant request, but it sounds like this is just a temporary short-term position in order to set up Lift Wyoming into the future. So we do support Lift Wyoming and all the good things that they do.
Great, thank you, Travis. So yeah, so Strategic Performance and Finance is making the recommendation to approve. So it came out of the subcommittee with that recommendation. And yeah, just kind of really quickly I have participated in Lift Wyoming when it was smaller. I think the first one I did was 4, 5, 6 years ago, but started with a group of 25 kids in Casper. And we were just in a classroom talking about why to stay in Wyoming. What's your future? Why do you want to be here? After going, I went 2 or 3 times in a row, it just kept growing and growing. The organizers of Lift Wyoming really are very, very passionate about this topic and keeping youth in Wyoming and that brain drain that we always talk about. And it was just crazy because I remember that first conference was 25 kids. And then at the last one that I attended, which was about 3 years ago, I think there was about 200 or so. We filled the Lyric Theater in downtown Casper, and it was just great. And their kind of vision was, as a high schooler, if you remember your high school days, you didn't go to conferences. That's what adults do. You get a job and you go fly around to conferences. They thought it'd be a really cool idea to have a conference for high school students. And their vision was to take it statewide. They had started obviously in their regional area of Casper, and they had approached me, and that was before I was chairman, but I was still part of the council. Like, ET, is there somewhere that, how can we expand this? How could we grow this? We would love to see all of Wyoming participate in a yearly high school conference, where you're going to go and meet cool people and hear about Wyoming and why you should stay and job opportunities. I just thought it was great. And I thought the energy in the room was awesome. So yeah. And you can see there's a lot of really interesting data that we can glean from high school students that they've attached to their grant application. But I will be abstaining just to make sure there's no perceived conflict of interest. So just so you know, but I would highly recommend it. Any other questions or discussion from council on this grant request?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Brenna?
Jennifer, do you know how much money we gave them last year?
I believe it was 10,000 less.
Okay.
I think it's here. Give me a sec. It's on the expenditure page because they currently have. I can pull that up real quick.
The only reason I asked, Mr. Chair, is can the council make a motion to decrease the funding to $15,000, as is the Southwest Manufacturing Partnership only requested $15,000. And they seem to reach more students and are more established than the LIFT program.
That is a decision you can make a motion for, yes.
So last year, we provided a grant for 21,450. And remember, this is the LIFT, the current contract is under review from DOL. So well, I can tell you one thing already won't be on there. It's the funds that they requested for the LIFT Junior, because that's outside of our age range that we can fund. So it'll be less than the 33,000. Again, to make sure that we only pay for allowable activities.
Well, and I guess a question, it has on their executive director, but yet the description is saying they're wanting to bring in a dynamic speaker. So I guess I'm confused why executive director of $10,000 is on that.
Right. So right now, in speaking with the board at LIFT Wyoming, most of it's being done by volunteers with their own funds, and they've reached a critical mass where it's just not feasible for volunteers to continue to travel the state using their own funds for hotel rooms. And these are teachers, so they have to hire, they have to help with the subs and use their own time. And so they'd really like $10,000 to have a dedicated person to really advance this initiative around the state. They are really trying to make it bigger than the Casper area to bring in more students. And so I can tell you also, the bill that I just paid for hotel rooms was less than they actually encumbered. They got more hotel rooms than our grant paid for. So they are finding some other funding sources, but they have made it clear to me that they really need these funds from the council to grow, to expand, that they won't get bigger without their request.
Great. Any other further council discussion or questions? Yes, Lauren?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And looking at the grant application, they have 7 other funders is what they have listed, and only a few of those, well, not all of those are businesses. Is there any plan, to your knowledge, because the Southwest Wyoming Manufacturing Partnership, that is all businesses, and they see it as their job to help recruit for their industries. And I think that that's been a really successful model, as Brenda stated. But I think that this is lacking significant resources from business and industry. And we know through Next Gen sector partnerships that they should be the ones leading these efforts. So I'm wondering if there's any effort within there, especially in the healthcare area where there's some good partnerships going on there, if they have any intention of moving towards getting those, I guess, input and support.
So they haven't mentioned that to me. However, I also get the sense that they would take any and all help. So, one thing that's happened just by working through me is getting some of those other businesses in that area involved. Also, just with the council in general, they've had some more reach. Their real struggle right now is to get the students. And so that's getting teachers in other school districts on board with doing this. And so that's, one of the, well, you don't know, but one of DOL's questions had to do with the outreach that they plan to do. And so a lot of their outreach is really focused on schools. So LIFT Wyoming was created by teachers. They're not being specific to any business or any industry. And so that might also be a challenge with Next Gen, is it's not specific to an industry. They're keeping it really broad and trying to keep all of our students in Wyoming based on their interest. And so they just kind of, from what I understand, the speakers are there to energize them and tell them about the different industries in Wyoming. I do think that that is a great partnership potential, especially with the healthcare partnership there in that area. But again, it can't just be focused on healthcare. Like, it could be a speaker from healthcare, but I know that they're not opposed. And like, if Southwest Manufacturing could sponsor some students in that area to come to the conference, that would be helpful to them. So I think they're open to any and all funding, because they're really passionate teachers and really want to keep their students here in Wyoming. They don't like to see them move to other states either.
Thank you, Lauren. Yes, Priya?
I will say all very valid points. I see the benefit in the broadness. I think this feels like a different program than typically gets put on our agenda to talk about. And even kind of looking at what I do pay attention to this one on social media for sure, and have seen this last year's, and then kind of looking at their roster of speakers, I feel like I'm encouraged by a lot of the, kind of creative lean and things like that, like topics that our students don't typically get talked to about often and don't typically get reminded that there are careers in these sorts of things. So that would at least be my 2 cents, is that I think that this one is really important to kind of further that more broad conversation for our youth.
Great. Thank you, Bria. Tina?
Well, Bria took half of what I was going to say, so we must have been thinking alike. I just wanted to make a comment on, as a director of a nonprofit who's out hustling most of the year to write grants and secure funding. When I look at their list of funders, they do have some businesses that I have never been able to get through the door on. I've applied to Coke for a grant for 10 years and I can't even get them to, so my point is I think they are trying to set themselves up to leverage other dollars. And, I think if I like the list of their speakers a whole lot. I know this council focuses heavily on the industries, but I think for Wyoming, that's a little bit bigger picture. I think that sometimes we need to look a little broader at. So I would say I would throw my support to this grant in the amount that they've requested.
Great. Thank you, Tina, for those comments. Any other council discussion? Yes, Phil?
Would there be any way that they could actually explain to us what these great job opportunities are in Wyoming and how they're getting people to move here? I mean, or work here, maybe to the council. I'm not sure what they would be, because I see they were just at Casper College.
Right. So they hold their conference at Casper College, and on their website, they list all the speakers. And then, another thing with data is that they're getting some data from the students, but we don't ultimately know which colleges they go to. That's harder. And anyone who works with youth and trying to gather college data, that's about impossible. But they really are trying, and they're trying to stay connected with the students that they serve. That's the unique thing I think about this conference, is that they are getting that positive response from the students, and them really participating and filling out those exit surveys and pre-surveys as well. But to your question, I think they would love to speak to the council at some point in time about their initiatives and how they would grow, but they're not here today.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's a great agenda item in the future, is to bring them in and hear from Lyft. Yep. Yeah, Ryan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the executive director line item, the $10,000, in the description, it doesn't talk much about, the sustainability of funding that position. And maybe Jennifer, you could clarify from talking to them, are they expecting this to be an ongoing line item that continually gets presented to the council, or is this just a one-time? I know from the Southwest, I mean, that's always a struggle, is the funding model of how you keep these people engaged. But if you grow, you typically require more time, which means more funds. So I'd be interested to understand a little bit more what that sustainability from a funding perspective looks like for this particular position, because it seems pretty important.
Again, the only information is that the volunteers who are doing it right now are at capacity, and in order to grow, they've asked for $10,000 for a director. And all of you who have payroll know that that's not a full-time position. I wouldn't even say it's a part-time position, but it is what they need to increase their capacity. As far as if this is a continual request, I really can't answer that. Every funding application that we do, it's always just for 1 year. And then if they bring another one, that's another grant application and review it. It's also, I'd like to take a moment, just if anyone's wondering about funding cuts, is that all of our contracts, whether it's DWS or WWDC, because it's DWS on behalf of WWDC, it's all based on funding availability. And so if it comes to be that we don't have enough funding to support activities like these, then we don't. All of our grants are based on funding availability. But right now, that's not a problem, and who knows what the future is. But just in case you are wondering, everything we write is based on funding availability.
Yeah, and I would also just add, that's kind of the responsibility of the subcommittee of the strategic performance and finance is before bringing it to the committee as a whole, we do have potentially the funds to fund this, so that's kind of the job of the subcommittee to double check that. Travis, you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, that's the beauty that we serve multiple years, is that we gain that institutional knowledge and kind of can remember this in subsequent years. So, I would assume if operating expenses come back again, there'll probably be a more robust conversation about it.
Fair point. All right, any last minute discussion? Or I will welcome a motion.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I do have a question, I guess, to the gentleman at the end here, being new, and to his point, is that something that we could table until we hear from them to understand a little bit further to what their proposal is and see what that may look like? Or do we have to approve it today? And, how does that work?
Yeah, to be kind of quite frank, it is your council's decision to make that. You can make a motion to postpone it and wait for more information if you'd rather get that before making a vote on this, or approving it, making a motion to do it the full amount or another amount. So it's up to you guys for sure.
Well, I guess for me, I'm hearing a lot of uncertainty and a lot of questions. So I guess I would make the motion to postpone until I guess I don't know how that works. And if you have to have a specific date, it would be September. I know it delays this in terms of what they're requesting. I understand that portion of it, but it sounds like the consensus for what I'm hearing is that there needs to be some more explanation. So I guess my proposal would be until September, we postpone it.
Okay, so just to make sure I'm clear, Mayor Lunvall is proposing a motion to postpone it till September with clarifying information and from questions from the
Right,
council.
and with this, a committee or somebody would have to, if we go back to them with clarification, we need clear questions for them to answer. And, asking them if they'll need it again next year, is that a fair question? And I'm just putting that out there because who knows the future? I don't know if we'll have funding for projects next year. I mean, literally, if we table, then Chairman, you can push it back to strategic performance and finance to draft those clarifying questions or create a task force, but that we really will have to bring them. Because again, this has gone through a committee already and they've done the work and voted to approve. And so that's why it's brought here. So if we need to go back and we can invite them to the September meeting and we can also invite them to committee meetings, but we do need to be clear on what we would like to hear back from them.
Yeah, with that expectation, that's what that motion would mean, yeah? Okay, so the motion currently on the table is to put together, potentially have the Strategic Performance and Finance Committee come up with clarifying questions to the council. Okay, yeah, so we got the motion. So then do I have a second to that motion?
There hasn't been one yet, so ask for someone makes.
There was a motion.
Oh, okay, yes. Do I have a motion?
There was a motion.
I think I made the motion.
Mayor Lunvall did make the motion. Yeah, the motion was to postpone it till September.
With the caveat that they would be here in person
that they would be here in person and provide, and then the Strategic Performance and Finance would come up with clarifying questions that they would be presenting to us in September. Is that correct, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second that motion.
Seconded by Lauren. All right, so any other further council discussion on this motion? Again, the motion on the table is to create clarifying questions on the Strategic Performance and Finance Committee and postpone in person for them to be here in September to present. Or virtual, yeah. Commissioner Nicolason.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My only concern is that September's a long time away. It seems to me that if we can fund this, in my mind, it's not a terribly large sum of money. We fund it now, we've got the funding for it. We may not by the time, or maybe the landscape will look different. We might not know, or we might not have it come September. And so my feeling is the committee made a presentation that to approve this. They did their due diligence, I'm suspecting. I'm not sure if we heard from any of those committee members today in the comments. I'm a new guy. But my inclination would be, even though I think that there are some concerns about sustainability on that $10,000 and some of these other items, fund it. And then, if we're disappointed, then that'll be probably the end of the funding next time for sure. There won't be funding next time. So my inclination is to go ahead and fund it today. So I'd be voting against the motion to table.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Nicolason. Yes, Wendy?
Would it be an option to maybe fund half of it, give them 15,000, like what we gave the Southwest manufacturer? And then once they present, if they can come in September and present, and we get a clarification of what is going on, we can give them the rest of the money.
Yes, but the current motion on the table is the postponement. But if you'd like to make a motion, depending on that, the current motion on the table, yes, that could be brought forward. Yes, Tina?
Just a comment on the motion, really. If these are all volunteers and teachers, are we being fair to them to ask them to drive all the way to Jackson in September at the beginning of a brand new school year?
Yeah, I don't think we would necessarily require them to be in person. They obviously have the choice to join us remotely, for sure. A good point. Yeah, Nikki?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Just a curiosity question. Given that they are looking to work additionally with youth and so on and so forth, our division works with youth. We are in all 48 school districts. I'm curious if we could maybe add something there that they would be required to partner with at least Title II or Title IV or some of the WIOA partners, so that this becomes more under the council's, I don't want to say council purview, so to speak, but that council has some involvement in that degree, as opposed to we're going to just, agree to the funding. This gives us some maybe involvement, I would say. And again, a curiosity question, if that's something we would consider.
All right, thanks for coming. Bria, did you have something?
I did. Just a little bit of a comment for the council. I think another difference of this sort of event, different than the ones that we are typically talking about, is in my mind, this isn't necessarily what is the direct ROI to this investment in terms of then feet in jobs. So if you look at their research here, it looks like 58.3% of these attendees are college bound, which means that there's going to be a gap in terms of this education here and then them getting in the jobs. And so talking about it from I live in marketing. And so talking about it from marketing speak, it is a brand awareness initiative, not something that is going to be directly measurable. We want to plant the seed in these students' minds of what they can do when they go to college and when they get out of college. And so I think that would be a little bit of my support in terms of like how this is different from things in the state. Yes, it's not as well established, but I think that we should help it become more well established.
Great. All right. Well, great council discussion. I'll do one last one yet. Charlie?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I sit on the Strategic Performance Committee. I was not on the call, this discussion, so I really don't have much background, but I have heard, support from committee members the program in the past. And the other thing I want to add is, as a runner of a nonprofit that does primarily volunteer work, one of the problems we run into quite a bit is that when you volunteer the work and then you come back and say, oh, we'd like to have funding to move forward for filling in the gaps of that volunteer, you've kind of, I don't know what the word is, put yourself in a bad position because of having done the volunteer. And I'd hate to see this organization pay the price for that. It seems like a reasonable thing, and I think the committee was behind it, so I speak in support. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Charlie. All right, again, just to be clear, the motion on the table is to postpone this till September, require them to come either in person and or remotely to create clarifying questions for the Strategic Performance and Finance Committee. Based upon those answers, we would do a revote at the September meeting. So we already had a motion from Mayor Lundvall. We had a second from Lauren. So at this point now, I will ask for everyone that is in approval of this motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any abstaining? Myself.
Nay.
Nay.
Nay. Any not approved?
Nay.
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 And I believe that motion does not pass. Okay, so the motion does not pass, so I will welcome a new motion.
Mr. Chairman, can I call a point of order?
Yes.
I don't believe that vote was taken quite correctly. It was a little confusing. Could we do that again,
A
please?
revote?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So we've got aye. Okay. Yes. I'll be thankful. Okay. So we're going to do a quick revote. Thanks for the point of clarification. Okay. So all in favor of approving the motion as is.
Can we do just a roll call?
I was going to say we could just do roll call.
I think
too.
that'd make it easier
Okay.
for everybody.
Right. Well, so can we do a roll call vote, please? All right. I was trying to avoid that, but I think we need to do it. So. So I is in favor of the postponement, and obviously nay is not. And then if you want to abstain, you can abstain.
Governor Mark Gordon or designee.
Aye.
Senator Dockstader, Representative Eric McKay, Chairman Trowbridge,
Abstain.
Michael Kircher,
Nay.
Ryan Bledsoe,
Nay.
Tony Cross, Larry Fodor,
Nay.
Taylor Timmis.
Nay.
Bria Hammock,
Nay.
Katie Hogarty,
Abstain.
Travis Lawrence,
Nay.
Travis,
Nay.
Deborah Zolnowski,
Nay.
Wendy Fiskett John,
Nay.
Danny Bureau,
Nay.
Charles Wilson,
Nay.
Tina Conley.
Nay.
Sorry, Tina, I have to unmute when I do that, sorry. Can you say it again?
Nay.
Oh, Katie Hogarty,
Abstain.
Philip Cornella,
Aye.
Brenda Morgan,
Aye.
Dan Meyer,
Aye.
Matthew Davis,
Nay.
Mayor
Nay.
Shea Lundvall,
Aye.
Commissioner Peter Nicolason,
Nay.
Director Elizabeth Gagan,
Nay.
Ben Moritz or designee, Laurel, Nikki Harper,
Abstain.
Superintendent, sorry. Mr. Chairman, the motion fails.
All right, so the motion does not pass as stated, so I will welcome a new motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Brenda.
I would make a motion that we support Lyft at $15,000. Due to the fact that it's very targeted on who they invite to it, who they present it, it's only college directly based. If it was a little bit broader, I think I'd feel more comfortable giving them more money. So the motion is for $15,000.
All right, so we have a motion on the table from Brenda to adjust the total amount to $15,000 instead of the ask of $33,000 was the initial ask. Do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Taylor. All right. Any further council discussion on this topic before we go to a vote? So again, the motion on the table is to approve $15,000. Yes, Lauren?
So we have a proposed budget from them. How would that work then if we reduce the amount?
This will be my guess, but Director Gagan, please feel free to answer this as well. We're still waiting back on US2L. So again, it wasn't the concept, it's specific line items. So of those items that are approved, we would go back to Lyft Wyoming and ask them which of those items they would like us to support.
Great question. Any other questions before? I think we'll just do another roll call vote this time, or? All right, so roll call vote. All in favor, aye for approving the $15,000 of the original $33,000 ask, abstain, or nay on the motion. And I'll have Jennifer take another roll call vote.
Governor Mark Gordon or designee.
Aye.
Senator Dockstetter. Representative Erickson. Eric Trowbridge.
Abstain.
Michael Kircher.
Nay.
Ryan Bledsoe.
Aye.
Tony Cross. Larry Fodor.
Aye.
Taylor Timmis.
Aye.
Bria Hammock.
Nay.
Katie Hogarty.
Abstain.
Travis Lawrence.
Nay.
Deborah Zolnowski.
Nay.
Wendy Fiskett John.
Aye.
Danny Bureau.
Nay.
Charles Wilson.
Nay.
Tina Conley.
Nay.
Nathan Williams. Philip Cornella.
Aye.
Brenda Morgan.
Aye.
Dan Meyer.
Aye.
Matthew Davis.
Aye.
Mayor Shea Lunball.
Aye.
Commissioner Peter Nicolason.
Aye.
Director Elizabeth Gagan.
Aye.
Dr. Ben Moritz or designee. Nikki Harper.
Aye.
14 would be a passing vote. We have 13, so this motion fails.
All right, so the motion does fail again, so I will welcome a new motion.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Charlie.
Oops. I'd motion that we approve the request as it's presented.
All right, so the motion now currently presented on the table from Charlie is that we approve the grant request as full as presented to us today. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Bria Hammock. Council discussion? Yes, Brenda?
Again, Mr. Chair, I would just like to point out that they don't have a lot of supporting data for the first money that we gave them last year. I do support the intent and the idea, but again, it's very specific to just attending college. And I think there's other great opportunities that need to be promoted in the state as the Southwest Manufacturing is doing currently. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Brenda, for your comments. Ms. Gersher, have a comment?
Yeah, I do. I guess I would respectfully disagree. I do believe that they are trying to promote just staying in Wyoming, whether it's going to college or getting in a trade or whatever. They're just trying to show separate career paths that people have taken throughout the state to stay here, and that you can provide for your family and make a good life here. So I support the motion.
All right, thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. All right, any further council discussion, Lauren?
Mr. Chair, thanks. I just want to build a little off of what Brenda said, and this is the first time I've heard of this. I work in the WIP space, I work with higher education, and I'm very curious as well in the data that how are they recruiting these businesses to come speak at these events? And I think that this is a great event. I just also believe that this is a lot of money. It's over $600 a student that's attending. That's a lot. And so I think that it's a good starting spot, but I do think that we need more data and follow up. I also would really like to know how their event went, and we don't have the opportunity to hear about that. It apparently was last week or the week before, and so they're already asking for more money, which this had to have been turned in before they even had their event, which wouldn't have even given them the opportunity to build off of what they learned from this year into this new application. So those are my concerns.
Thank you, Lauren. Yes, Commissioner Nicolason.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have some concerns with the application. I voted aye on funding now at 15,000. I was kind of hoping my colleague down the table might propose something in between, such as what the funding was last year, which I think was 23,000. Because of the imperfections, because of some of the questions, because of maybe some of the lack of data, because of the programming or the executive director component, I was thinking maybe that sweet spot would be somewhere, the Goldilocks would be somewhere in the middle, but those are just some concerns I have with the present motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Nicolason. And yes, depending on the proposal of this motion, that can always be brought up if this motion does not pass. Yes, Dr. Aldridge.
Chairman Trowbridge, it was contacted. So I share some of Lauren's concerns. Being the Career Tech Ed Director for the state, this was the first time I had ever heard of it. And it was referred to me by someone at LCCC to visit with these people. We had 2 appointments set up and they failed to meet either appointment to have that conversation. And things come up during the school day, and one actually happened they had accidentally scheduled it during their event time when they were actually at this conference with these students. And the other one was last week, and the gentleman just got tied up with a student problem, evidently. So we've got another meeting to visit about, they're seeking funding also from us through Perkins, but we have a major concern as well that, we fund career and technical education, which can include college bound, but doesn't always. And so I would just say that I'll be interested to see the data and to see really if they can broaden this. And the concern always is succession planning, because when I was introduced to it, it's a husband and wife team that are involved in this. And so maybe this executive director is to take it to the next level and to prepare that succession plan so that they can move out of that director role. But lots of questions, I think.
All right, thank you, Dr. Aldridge. Any last questions before we do another roll call vote? And again, the motion on the table is to approve the grant request as stated.
I have one.
Yes, Director Kagan.
Maybe clarification or friendly amendment if it's allowed. But I want to understand first if the motion to approve in whatever amount the Department of Labor were to determine is an appropriate use of WIOA funds.
So an amendment to the motion
Yes.
of the amendment would be to approve only up to the amount that the Department of Labor would approve for us to expend.
Yes. If the maker of the motion deems that to be friendly.
Charlie, is that a friendly amendment?
Yes, I think I was under the impression that that would have been a limiting factor. I thought we were waiting to see what the Department of Labor was going to come back with.
I can understand that. So yeah, that was my request, is that we would only do up to what was allowable expenses from DOL. So this is a no more than 33,000 because the agency isn't going to take the risk for paying for anything that would be disallowed.
Okay. So basically, we had the original motion from Charlie of approving the grant fund request as stated and presented to us. That was seconded by Bria Hammock, and we've had discussion, and there's been a friendly amendment made by Director Gagan to ensure the language be only move up to the approved expenses by the Department of Labor. No more than 33,000. All right. So Jennifer, will you take a roll call vote for that motion?
Governor Mark Gordon or designee.
No.
Senator Dockstader. Representative Erickson. Chairman Trowbridge.
Abstain.
Michael Kircher.
Aye.
Ryan Bledsoe.
Nay.
Tony Cross. Larry Fodor.
Nay.
Taylor Timmis.
Nay.
Bria Hammock.
Aye.
Katie Hogarty.
Abstain.
Travis Lawrence.
Aye.
Deborah Zolnowski.
Aye.
Wendy Fiskett John.
Nay.
Danny Bureau.
Aye.
Charles Wilson.
Aye.
Tina Conley.
Aye.
Nathan Williams. Philip Cornella.
No.
Brenda Morgan.
Nay.
Dan Meyer.
Nay.
Matthew Davis.
Aye.
Mayor Shay Lunvall.
Nay.
Commissioner Peter Nicolason.
Nay.
Director Elizabeth Gagan.
Nay.
Dr. Ben Moritz or designee. Nikki Harper.
Nay.
Mr. Chairman, this motion fails.
All right, the motion has failed once again. So we're back to square one. I would welcome a new motion from the council to consider on this grant request. Wendy, you have a motion with us?
I'll make a motion that we approve $15,000, and once they approve, or once they present to us in September in person or virtual, and we get a clearer understanding of what I guess what they're looking for, then we can approve the rest or we can deny the rest.
Okay, so the current motion on the table by Wendy is that we would today approve $15,000 and request them to come back in September to answer questions. At that point, the council will have a revote of, or another vote, a different vote to approve any additional funds beyond the $15,000. Is that correct, Wendy? All right, thank you, Wendy. Do I have a second for that motion?
I would second that.
Okay, so seconded by Larry Fodor. Any further council discussion before we move to roll call vote for the current motion on the table? 15,000 now, invite September, present up to the remaining funds depending on the council's vote at that time. Okay. Oh, Mr. Bureau?
Would that require, again, the questions, clarifying questions from one of our subcommittees so they know what they're answering?
Let's ask from our originator.
This is a decrease from last year's approval. So now we need to justify that and what we expect them to request to get.
Yeah, so this would be, to be clear, they had about, what was the amount they got last year? 20?
20.
So this would be a decrease
Yeah, it's a decrease.
until they present. And would you require the questions?
Be okay with even just a presentation, and then if we have questions at the end.
Okay,
I mean,
and
is that
since
allowed?
Larry seconded, are you good with that? Okay, so no formal questions, but we still would just have an open conversation with the LIFT team while they were here and make a decision after their presentation. Okay.
Right, so they received $21,450.
Okay, so 21,450
Was the last.
was last year's grant approval. All right, well, hearing no further discussion. Oh, yes, Philip?
And just to be clear, is this based on what happens in September? Would that potentially take even the 15,000 away?
No, this would
If
be
it's
for
not approved?
approving 15,000 today for sure. and additional funds pending on their presentation and questions in September.
Okay.
And there would be a separate vote for that. Okay. All right, I'll call for another roll call vote. So again, motion 15,000 today, come back in September, present, and we'll do another vote for any additional funds beyond that amount at that time.
Governor Mark Gordon or designee.
Aye.
Senator Dockstetter. Representative Erickson. Chair Eric Trowbridge.
Abstain?
Michael Kircher.
Aye.
Brian Bledsoe.
Aye.
Tony Cross. Larry Fodor.
Aye.
Taylor Timmis.
Aye.
Bria Hammock.
Aye.
Katie Hogarty.
Abstain.
Travis Lawrence. Deborah Zlonoski.
Aye.
Wendy Fiskett John.
Aye.
Danny Bureau.
Aye.
Charles Wilson.
Aye.
Tina Conley.
Aye.
Nathan Williams. Philip Cornella.
Aye.
Brenda Morgan.
Aye.
Dan Meyer.
Aye.
Matthew Davis.
Aye.
Mayor Shea Lundvall.
Aye.
Commissioner Peter Nicolason.
Aye.
Director Elizabeth Gagan.
Aye.
Dr. Ben Moritz or designee. Nikki Harper.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, this motion passes.
All right, so the motion passes for the 15,000 today, and then we will invite Liv to come back to us in our September committee as a whole meeting. All right, well, you probably all are aware we're a little bit behind on our agenda, but again, great discussion. That's exactly what this council is here to do. And sometimes, yes, we have to talk through it. So I'm going to go ahead and I think we all need to stretch our legs, get some water, maybe do a bathroom break. So I'm going to call a 15-minute break now. Let's please reconvene at 3:25, and I'll give you an updated agenda when we return. All right, please wrap up. This is why I need my gavel.
You said you were gonna bring your gavel.
I know, I forgot my gavel. I like literally was driving, I was like, dang it. But we need to get everyone back together because we have to be at the tour site at that
Yeah.
time.
They said they can do it as little as 10 minutes.
Okay.
So, but keep with your plan. I don't know where I'll put people.
I
to work,
know.
Or we just don't do in-demand occupation lists and we keep.
Yeah, so we'll have to talk about that, but. All right, I'm gonna reconvene, please. Seat. Let's see, please make your way back to your seats. Mr. Wilson, how are you?
How are you doing?
Good. All right, you too. Good to see you.
I'm wondering about, when I came on the board,
Mhm.
there was a research study that was done by these guys in Harvard about the economy.
Oh, yeah.
I was thinking about that when the governor was talking.
Yeah.
Did we ever do much with that?
We are the Harvard Growth Study, I think is what it's called. Yeah, we do, but we could do more.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good point. I'll look into that.
I'd like to.
Yeah. All right, are we ready to reconvene? Okay, everyone at their seats. So just really quick agenda updates today. Obviously, we went over, but I do want to say, this is what democracy in action looks like. So this is what you all are responsible for doing as a council. So this is what happens. But we do have to modify the agenda. We do want to be very respectful to the people that have traveled here that want to present to us, as well as make sure that we are on time to our tour site. We have staff and students that are staying over to welcome us. So we want to make sure that's happening. So we will work on the agenda probably later today, but we will be going over the one-stop performance and the in-demand occupations list probably sometime tomorrow. And so we're going to go ahead and continue with the agenda as stated based on time, which we will move on to our next section, which is the Cody Worland workforce story. So, and that's going to be presented by Sal Sanchez.
Thank you. Good afternoon. And council members and Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity to have me here this afternoon. For the sake of being concise, I'm going to stick to my prepared narratives that I have so we can keep moving along and won't hold us up any further. So my name is Sal Sanchez, and I am the center manager for the Department of Workforce Services Workforce Center offices in Cody, Worland, and Powell. We have a satellite office in Powell. So we actually have three, but so I've been with the department for 3 years. I started as an employment specialist. I was working WIOA cases and also the H-2A foreign labor grant program. So in December of last year, I was given the opportunity to step in as center manager of the Cody, Worland, and Powell offices. Since then, it's been my privilege, really, it's been my pleasure and privilege to supervise those dedicated people that staff those offices. It's been really, it's been a joy really to oversee the day-to-day operations of the workforce centers. We're a bit spread out across the Bighorn Basin, and we do find that we can maintain a cohesion and we can operate as a unified team in order to serve those communities. We actually have 3 core counties, but 5 overall if we count when we count our veteran employment specialist. I might be a little old-fashioned, I guess, but I do believe in the notion that we are civil servants. We work to serve our community, to accomplish the mission and the vision of the department. Maybe sounds a little corny, but I believe that, and I think our staff operates and wholeheartedly in that manner. So the people I supervise, they truly collaborate to support a thriving workforce and economy in our communities, and in turn, of course, our state. They champion the workforce needs of our communities, and they work tirelessly to assist our participants every single day. We're a small staff. We have 10 people total. So compared to larger offices, we're small, but I think we're mighty. We do a lot of good things. So, you know, I am proud of the work that the civil servants that we work with, your civil servants, I'm proud of the work they do. And so, again, it's my honor to be able to serve them by being the supervisor at those centers. So over the next several minutes, I'm going to speak about a few things. First of all, I'll talk about some successful collaborations we've had with a business and a community organization. Then I'll speak to a WIOA grant program participant, an adult, and then a youth. And then I'll talk about a couple of the challenges that we face at the Workforce Center. So with that, I'll continue with the collaborations. So, excuse me. So as we all know, the kind of work that happens at the Workforce Center, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's never a solitary endeavor. It takes a team of dedicated people, and it takes collaboration with entities outside of our workforce centers. So let's get into one of those collaborations. For the last 2 years, the Worland Workforce Center has been collaborating with Worland High School and helping them to work with their school-sponsored career fair. So it had been many years since the last time the high school held a career fair. And with the assistance of the Worland business rep, her name is Noemi Ariano. She does excellent work in Worland, so I think it's proper to mention her by name. She does great work. So through her outreach efforts and networking, she was able to secure participation of 35 local employers in Worland to attend the Worland High School Career Fair. Over 300 students attended that career fair. Of course, they're a captive audience, right? So those students are there. But those 35 employers, they showed up, and those students did interact and visit with all those employers. Of the 35 businesses that participated, some of the sectors that were represented are healthcare, construction, hospitality, transportation, and finance. So the 2025 career fair at Worland High School, the attendance was very good. It exceeded the attendance of the previous year, and it resulted in a pretty big success for the high school. The principal was ecstatic, expressed his gratitude to our employment specialist, to our Worland office, and he committed to holding this event on a yearly basis now. He's enthusiastic. He wants to have it every year, and he requests that the Worland Workforce Center continue to collaborate with them to keep bringing those employers to that career fair. Additionally, with Worland High School, they recently brought to us, to our Workforce Center job fair last month, they brought 50 students to the job fair. They bussed them over on a school bus, and I was there at that event. It was pretty amazing to see the students come in and enthusiastically go and talk to employers who are actively seeking to hire. They were able to give applications, ask questions, to submit resumes. But really, I think one of the biggest important thing there is that they had an opportunity to be exposed to that environment, to see what it's like to go and actually try to get a job, get a job the way their adult parents, their adult peers in the community, the way they do it. So that was actually really encouraging. I really appreciated the opportunity to see those students there, and we're going to keep doing that too. That's collaboration with Worland High School that we look forward to, and we look forward to continuing the success we have there. Another example of a collaboration is with a local business, this time in Cody, Wyoming. The Cody Workforce Center has been collaborating for 3 years with a local electrician in the community, so a local business, and with Northwest College down the road in Powell. The collaboration has been in the way of an electrical apprenticeship. So we have a participant, his name is Jason, and he came to the Workforce Center seeking assistance. He was assessed as an eligible participant for the WIOA grant program under dislocated worker. So we enrolled him, and he had interest in becoming an electrical apprentice. So this young man at that time, he was already married, a husband, a father, and we enrolled him into WIOA as a dislocated worker. The electrical apprenticeship program at Northwest College was what he chose to go with. And we found a local employer, an electrician company, and we approached them with the opportunity for the apprenticeship. The employer eagerly agreed, and the enrollment was completed with the ELAP, short for Electrical Apprenticeship Program, of course. Jason began his electrical apprenticeship journey with the goal of qualifying for the electrician journeyman's certification test. It's been nearly 3 years of hard work and dedication by Jason, and an equal amount of time, of course, for the people at the Workforce Center, those case managers that have this case throughout the years, offering supportive services, conducting career counseling sessions, writing agreements, et cetera, the work that we do, following and assisting the participant semester after semester up to the completion of the ELAP program. Throughout the entire program, Jason has maintained high marks for his grades, maintained a full-time work schedule. He's been an exemplary father and husband to his growing family, and he maintained reservist duties in the U.S. military to boot, all that throughout the whole 3 years. Last week, I'm happy to let you all know that he completed the ELAP program. He obtained his electrical apprenticeship certification, thus qualifying him to test for the journeyman's license. So it's coming up. He's very excited, and I actually chatted with him through a text last week, and he's very excited. I was reaching out to him because I wanted to attend the actual graduation. Well, it turns out ELAP doesn't have an actual cap and gown graduation, or I would have been there. But at any rate, he's getting ready for that license exam, for the journeyman exam. And just suffice it to say that the consequences of this are going to be life-changing for Jason. He's going to fully enter a trade that will contribute to the self-sufficiency of his family. Self-sufficiency is one of our goals, or if not our main goal, with WIOA grant participants, that they attain self-sufficiency upon exit or be able to get to that point. So he's going to be fully established as a tradesman within the community, working in a stable and upwardly mobile profession. And due to the success of this collaboration, the electrician employer, has pledged to remain in the ELAP program, to continue to collaborate with us. Incidentally, we do have another participant in the ELAP program with that employer, also with the ELAP program at Northwest College, and that participant was actually referred to us by Jason. So the word's gotten out a little bit. Those referrals, a lot of salespeople here, referrals are, it's a big part of the business. So the word's out. The community is hearing that about one of the important things that we do at the Workforce Center. We're offering an opportunity to eligible participants of the grant program to contribute to the economic well-being of their community by becoming involved on a career path that will lead them to self-sufficiency for themselves and their families. So that's kind of a brief take. I can go on this. So I'm going to move on to the WIOA adult success story. That actually kind of sounded like a success story too individually. I mean, of course, it was a collaboration, but this is all interrelated. The work we do, it's hard. It was kind of hard for me to separate everything, because when we work with our participants, we take the whole package. We take it all as it comes. So move on. The WIOA adult success story is a case of a dislocated worker in the QUEST program. So WIOA dislocated worker QUEST grant participant. George was a father of 2, divorced, 57 years old, resident of Powell, Wyoming. He came to us seeking WIOA assistance in order to help pay for CDL training. He wanted to get into the transportation sector. We assessed him as eligible for the National Dislocated Worker Grant Program, and again, the QUEST subsection. He had lost work permanently due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Prior to the pandemic, he obtained a real estate license. He was going to go into real estate, go into business for himself as an independent contractor, going into sales. He got hired on to a local real estate office. He had just entered the field and then the pandemic forced the closure of that business, first temporarily and then permanently. So he permanently lost that opportunity. He had to, because of the shutdown, he had to find something else. You know, sometimes what we do is we call those survival jobs. So he had to find a survival job. So he moved into food and beverage, which, you know, anybody has any experience in that industry knows that's an industry that always seems to have openings for those willing to work. Even if you don't have a lot of experience, there are a lot of openings. So he took a job that he thought he could succeed in. He began working at a cafe at the Yellowstone Regional Airport as a cook and a counter attendant. The airport wasn't doing so great as far as business for that cafe. Again, still early on into the pandemic. So as we know, you know, I'm not going to rehash history, but we know the effects there. It was losing business, it lost its staff, it was still hanging on when George was hired at $16.25 an hour. The business was open part-time only during the winter months, very sporadically due to the low volume at the airport. So George had to take on a second job, second survival job. So he started working as a custodian at Cody Regional Hospital. George was facing losing his house. He was behind on his federal income taxes. He was not on good terms with his kids because of the financial stuff between him and his ex-wife. So that's when he came to us seeking assistance. Again, we assessed eligibility. We enrolled him into the WIOA program. He began his CDL truck driver training at Northwest College in Powell at their Center for Training and Development. He attended CDL training dutifully for 3.5 months. Throughout this whole time, though, he was still working 2 jobs, you know, barely hanging in there, barely making ends meet. But he successfully completed the training. He obtained his Class A commercial driver's license. That was a pretty happy day for him. He actually came in the office. I was his case manager at that time. This is part of the transition for me from employment specialist to center manager. So at that time, he came in and he brought his license. He was excited. He was ecstatic. We take a copy of that. We consider that a measurable skills gain and a credential. So he brought that in, and we started working on a job search with him. Had to find a job. So started his job search in transportation, continued to work with us at the Workforce Center, utilizing resume and job search assistance. And he soon became employed at driving a cement truck at a local company in town. He was earning at that time $20 per hour. Not great, but an increase, substantial for him. We continued to support him with WIOA supportive services. We assisted him with work clothes and work boots that were required for the job. And after a few months of experience, and with the winter construction layoff months approaching, he was hired as a passenger bus driver with a local charter bus company with a small bump in pay. So he jumped jobs and he started earning $22 an hour as a commercial passenger bus driver. After several more months of driving at this particular job, George decided that he wanted to get over-the-road driving experience. He wanted to increase his earning potential. He wanted to increase his possibilities within the transportation sector. So he wanted to get over-the-road driving experience, and he did. He actually, completely on his own, he found a job driving over the road, which he did for another 6 months, gaining that valuable experience. He recently came back to Powell, Wyoming. Of course, that's where his house still is, and his children were there. So he wanted to come back home, get off the road. He had gained valuable experience throughout the previous 12 months. And with that experience, he was able to leverage that and obtain a job with a tourism transportation company, working as a commercial passenger bus driver, earning $30 per hour, plus gratuities, plus benefits. He'll also qualify for a raise when he gets 6 months, much like, you know, it's commonplace, but he was ecstatic. He came into the office pretty happy again, and it was a follow-up appointment. He stopped in. At this point, I was no longer his case manager, but his case manager was out that afternoon. So knowing George, he came into my office and we spoke, and he reported to me that he's very happy with how WIOA participation worked out for him. He really loves his new job. He looks forward to long-term employment with this company, and he's finally on a career path with a job that pays a self-sufficient wage. He's been able to keep his house. He's begun to pay down his federal income taxes. And most importantly to him, he's been able to maintain a close relationship with his children. So with WIOA assistance, he was able to go from being underemployed at a risk of being homeless, losing his house, and Now he's working in the transportation tourism sector on a stable career path in a growth sector, earning a self-sufficient wage with the potential to increase his wages. He also reported to me that it feels like he's been able to regain his dignity as a person. You gotta meet George. He's a very personable, affable fella. So he easily shares his emotions, and that was easy for him to share. But it was really poignant for me to have him to hear him say that he regained his dignity. So, as I mentioned, he's keeping his home. That's great. He's now able to save a little money for a rainy day. The WIOA grant program and the Cody Workforce Center assisted George in a very impactful way. We helped him to get himself and help himself rather. And as a result, he's become a successful WIOA participant. So we're really proud of our work with George. I'm proud of George personally. Gotten to know him pretty well over the last year and a half. Moving on to a WIOA youth success story. This one's not going to be as long, don't worry. But of course, being youth, they don't have a long life history, right? So it's going to be a little more concise. So I'm going to feature our WIOA youth success story. Kaylin is her name. She came to us. She was 19 years old, Cody resident, and she was a high school dropout. When she came to us seeking WIOA assistance, she was what we consider technically homeless, although she was under a roof, but she was staying on her sister's sofa. So for the purpose of our grant program, she would be considered homeless, but she certainly didn't have her own home. She was, again, living with her sister temporarily. She was estranged from her parents and for the most part, all on her own. Kaylin came to the Workforce Center seeking WIOA assistance in order to participate in the adult education or the HiSET program at Northwest College. She was also in need of assistance obtaining new identification documentation, a Social Security card, and a birth certificate. Now, she was assessed eligible for WIOA as a WIOA youth under the Basic Skills Deficient category, and she was enrolled as a participant. Kaylin was assisted by her WIOA case manager, Erin Cates. I'd like to mention Erin Cates specifically because she does excellent work with our youth, both in Powell and in Cody. So Erin assisted Kaylin with career guidance and supportive services, such as stipends and incentives while attending the HiSET program. With assistance from her WIOA case manager, Erin, and the adult ed rep at Northwest College, this participant, Kaylin, was able to obtain a new Social Security card and a birth certificate. Now, I consider this notable because we often see WIOA youth lack this kind of documentation. It's the kind of thing I take for granted, but oftentimes they lack the documentation for identity as well as a high school diploma. So they come from broken homes sometimes, or from situations where they just lost their documents sometimes. They're estranged from their parents or their family. Somebody moves, they don't have them. So that's why I consider that to be notable, because it becomes a barrier to training and employment for these youngsters, for these young adults. So Kaylin successfully completed the HiSET program in a short amount of time and obtained her high school equivalency. Kaylin then received resume and job search assistance from her WIOA case manager and obtained a full-time employment with a local construction firm. She works as an entry-level clerk, earning $18 an hour plus benefits. She has the ability to learn office skills as related to the construction trade. She is well-liked, and there is opportunity for growth if she decides to continue in that field. Kaylin has also indicated to her WIOA case manager that she may be interested in furthering her education once she has a little bit of work and life experience under her belt. So then, she may have the opportunity to have a better idea of what she'd like to do. And when I was 19, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was already in college. That's a different story. We won't. So anyway, Kaylin is currently saving money. She's planning on moving into an apartment of her own, and she's very happy with the job while she discerns what she wants to do for the next stage of her life. Kaylin now has hope for her future and the ability to meet her current financial needs while on a path to self-sufficiency. So this has been a WIOA success story for the Cody office, to be sure, but more importantly, really, it's a success story for Kaylin, for the young lady. It's been a story of growing hope for her successful future. And she's now entered the local workforce, and she's discerning what to do next. And in any way we can, we'll be there to help her with that as well. So let's move on to the challenges we're facing. got a whole laundry list, but I'll mention two because, nobody wants to hear a boring complaint list of challenges. But, the challenges are opportunities, I think, actually, because it's kind of like something the governor said earlier about challenges. And the way I heard that was it's an opportunity because then you can figure out what you didn't know or figure out a new way to do something. So I don't see these challenges necessarily as a problem. It's just part of the day-to-day. So one of the challenges that we face, and this kind of hits home with me a little bit as the center manager, is hiring and retaining talent to work at the workforce centers. Applicants and candidates that are new to the workforce, for example, college graduates, they're interested in the employment specialist position. Currently, right now, it pays $24.78 per hour to start. Of course, state benefits. So those applicants, they're interested. We see interest there. The challenge there is that after a year or so of experience working with us, they either want to go back to school or they start looking to move on to other positions, perhaps outside the department or even outside the state. Retaining employees in our workforce in the state, of course, it's huge for all of us. So it's not just that we want to keep them in the department, we want to keep them in the state if we can. So that's a challenge. But before I go on to some of the actions we take, then the other side of that same challenge coin of hiring and retaining is veteran or experienced applicants. So there's those applicants who have some job experience already. They seem to be a little reluctant to have interest or to accept the employment specialist position at $24.78 per hour. The ones out of college, looks good. People with more experience doesn't look as good. So that's a bit of a challenge there in actually attracting talent. So we have actually seen job offers that were rejected after a candidate rethinks the rate of pay, the job duties, et cetera. So challenges, yes, but we can work it out. We try to find ways to support the needs of new employees by being flexible with work schedules. They have different needs. These newer, not always the newest ones, but they have growing families. They have personal interests. So again, we try to be flexible so we can help them feel that we're interested in them. And they're not just a number. They're not just an employee. They're actually human beings that we value. So we try to be flexible to their interests, to their needs. We're keen on developing new staff to help them reach their full potential. And we're supportive of in-house promotion within the department, of course. That's how I got a promotion, in-house, into department. So we support that. I let new people know that that's a possibility. We encourage that. Some of our best people, we want to see them succeed. And if that means that they get a promotion outside of my office, within the department, someplace else, great. I support that. I just want the best for them. So we do support and promote in-house promotions. We, on our job interviews, we try to be specific with the duties, with the rate of pay, the expectations, also on the job post. So we don't put a range, at least I don't list it as a range from here to here. This is the pay rate. I want to be specific. I want to be honest and upfront so that there are clear expectations. During the interviews, we highlight the benefits of working for the state. We highlight in-house promotions and other opportunities, and especially work-life balance, which I know firsthand, it does work. It works for me. I have a family, I have a wife and a 16-year-old child. The work-life balance works really well for us, so I can attest to that. And of course, we also highlight all the positive things of working for the state of Wyoming. One more challenge that I'd like to focus on is the aging workforce. We hear a lot of talk, and of course, it makes sense to talk about the high schoolers, the college students, those entering the workforce. But one of the challenges we're facing at the workforce centers up in the Bighorn Basin is an aging workforce. We've seen a substantial increase in job seekers in their 70s, into their 80s. It's not hyperbole, it's true. Traditionally, of course, retirement age being 65, maybe now 67, that traditional age is not across the board anymore for everybody, not from what we're seeing. So some of these workers, it's challenging. It's challenging to help them re-enter the workforce, challenging in a different way due to their specific age-related barriers sometimes. Some of them have been dislocated from their previous jobs, and Others find it necessary to re-enter the workplace after retirement. And this is not just a small number. Every week, we'll see at least a couple of folks in this demographic. So it's not just once in a while, it's consistent. Others just don't want to sit around the house. Understandable. They believe, and of course, I think it's true, that they want to stay active and they have much to offer yet. So they also come to the workforce centers, seeing what we can do to help them find a job. 70 to 80-year-old job seekers and unemployment insurance claimants are also commonplace at the workforce centers. Many of these job seekers have been doing the same jobs for many years or even decades, and the workplace is a different place than when they first entered it. Another thing that really hit home, the governor mentioned that, the workplace is changing. I just try to put myself in those shoes of those people. Imagine working someplace for 30 years. This is your skill set. You're a professional. You do really good at this job, and now you have to find a different job. Technology's changed. Expectations have changed. So it's difficult for some of these. Empathy really comes in handy, working with all our claimants really, but especially with this demographic. So the workplace is different than when they first entered it. And we see a limited scope of suitable job openings for job seekers in their late 60s into their 80s. My mom is 71. My father is 81. I can't imagine, they're retired, thankfully. I can't imagine them going back into the workplace, so I kind of put myself in those shoes. And we don't see a lot of 80-year-olds, to be fair, but there are a few. There are a few that come in, most late 60s and into their 70s for sure. So helping them to adapt to the changing needs of the current job openings that are available, that's a challenge we face. Some of them are technology challenged. Some, I kind of take that for granted. My 16-year-old wizard with technology, some of the youngsters you see preschool kids even, they're great. But when you're a little bit older, that could be a challenge. Sometimes they face limited physical ability or have limited skills in the workplace. Their skills from a decades-long career may not translate to the current needs of the job market, as I mentioned before. Occasionally, we'll hear from somebody that they believe they faced age discrimination. That's hard for me to quantify at our office. It really is. So then we refer them to labor standards, and we refer them out for that. So I really can't quantify that. That's anecdotal. A couple of times that we've heard that, but I really don't know if that's a huge factor. And then finally, training opportunities. Those that are available are not always the best fit for this demographic. We send a lot of participants to truck driver training, healthcare training. Those are grueling jobs. I've worked in healthcare, 8, 9, 10, 12 hours on your feet. It's tough for somebody that's beyond traditional retirement age. Driving a truck, never done it, but I can imagine how grueling that must be too. So some of those traditional training opportunities aren't always the best fit for this demographic. So what kind of things do we do? Well, we provide assistance with them, some basic job seeking assistance, cover letters, resumes. We do a lot of that. Updating those resumes to utilize contemporary formatting. Some people don't even have resumes. They've been working the same job for 30 years. They got that job when they were, when it was hit the pavement, word of mouth, shake hands, you get a job. They didn't apply for the job. Somebody just gave them a job. They need a resume. We help them with a resume. We help them with formatting that's applicable to today's needs, to what the employers are looking for. Content on those resumes to get into the current era. Keywords on those resumes, because AI has been mentioned. Is this what AI does? Part of the things they search for keywords right when you put an application online. I don't know if that's a bot or an AI, quite frankly, but it's something technological that these folks, they need to understand that. We try to help them get those keywords in their resume so their applications actually go through and they can be seen by the hiring manager where they're applying for. We also use the CSEP program. So to hear from Director Gagan that there might be some funding cuts there, we'll deal with it. We'll deal with it as best we can, just like we do with all our challenges. So if there's some funding cuts there, we have, we use that limited in scope, the CSEP program. It does apply to this demographic, but we'll do the best we can with it. And we try to place them, where we can, where we find openings for them. Largely hospitality, tourism, Cody being a tourist community. Hospitality and tourism is huge, maybe seasonal, but it's a huge sector where there are a lot of job openings. They're always looking for workers, and it's customer service based. So a lot of our job seekers in this demographic have customer service experience, and they can get hired with little to no experience so long as they're willing to work hard. There's also flexibility in the shift work and hospitality. So that does serve the needs of this demographic a little bit.
Yeah, we are running out of time, Mr. Salazar. So do you have any final comments to wrap this up with?
I thought I was going to be concise.
Yeah, I did too.
Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. No, that is all. Appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you. Yes, and thank you, Mr. Salazar and all of the staff. You guys are the face of the Department of Workforce Services and helping. I mean, that's truly what our definition is helping others, right? So great stories,
Absolutely.
great everything that we do here behind the scenes embodied, in Moreland. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll keep it up.
Yes. Appreciate it. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, and we do have to make this really, really quick because we do have an obligation to get to our tour site on time because we have, again, staff and students that are waiting there for us, staying overtime. So, but we do want to end on a really big high note. And so hopefully we can keep it short, concise, powerful. As you know, it's one of our largest marketing campaigns that we have put together as a council. We've got some great partners at Keelan that have done some amazing work. So without further ado, tell us more about Forge Your Future. And we're going to be actually, the press release will be going out right about now.
Yes, it should be. I'm going to try to make this super fast because it's already 4:00 and I know you guys have places to be. So we will also send this presentation after the fact. But so we were hired last summer to ultimately work on building this video library. And the point of the video library is really to build as many videos as we can with as many job titles, occupations as possible within our healthcare, construction, manufacturing, and tourism industries. And so we took that challenge and said, let's go. Because we know that one of the biggest challenges, and we've heard it from multiple presentations today, is keeping people here and helping people understand that there are jobs here, there are skill sets here, and some of them require schooling, some of them don't require schooling, some of them you started as an apprenticeship, some of them are transitional jobs that, hey, where you were working didn't work out anymore, and here's a really great place for you to step on next. Jennifer, if you want to hit the next slide. So what we created was the Forge Your Future campaign. So really the goal is empowerment behind understanding what roles are available. So I'm happy to announce that we have 77 job titles that we have created video wise since November of 24, which has been quite the undertaking. My video team actually was here earlier today filming. I heard you talk a little bit about getting to film. So they have done an outstanding job of really helping people tell their story, really narrate how they got into the position, education that was needed for the position, and where they're hoping to grow within that position as well. And again, it is a plethora of different roles within these different industries. The only industry that we are continually working and will continue to film all the way through 2026 as well. So it's not like we're stopping at the end of this year. We have literally shoots scheduled all the way through November, and we still have more on the list. So if you aren't on our list, please reach out to us because we'd like to add you to our list. That's my shameless plug for you. But ultimately, our goal is as many jobs as possible will live on this library. But my mic drop for us today is press release goes out today, but marketing dollars go out starting today as well. So now this will finally start to get its statewide reach. We're starting with YouTube and social for these first couple of weeks, and then we will start hitting our Google platform, but we are going to be very data-driven. My company as a whole is a data-driven company. We really like to focus on who's engaging, why are they engaging, are they clicking, are they doing the things? So we will continue to pivot and change on those marketing elements and which channels we're putting these on based off of who's responding to it and are they doing what we want them to be doing. So we're super, super excited that today is officially Marketing Day. So I am going to just literally scoop really quickly through these pieces. So here's where we're sitting currently on who's on board. So we have lots more shoots. These are just the ones that we've done so far through April. We actually had quite a few that we've done in Casper as well. We've got more that are coming. Literally, we have 2 more shoots this month, 3 shoots next month. I'm giving my poor video team July off because they need a break. And then we're picking back up in August. And so we really want to see this all across the state. state. We want to see participant everywhere. So again, shameless plug, please reach out to us if you haven't. And then the next slide has three videos that I'm not going to play for you right now, but please watch them. If you guys are sitting in your hotel this evening and need something to do, spend some time here. We are really, really proud of the work that we have done. And we're so, so thankful that you guys have chosen our firm, because we love getting to tell these stories, because nothing's better than Wyoming people telling us why they're proud to be here and work here. Okay. There's our QR code to where the YouTube channel is. So if you don't know where it is, feel free to scan that QR code, but you should see lots of videos there. Thank you. At least 46, but yeah, there's so many videos, you guys. We're so excited. Questions?
Yeah, any quick questions about the Forge Your Future campaign? That's
Yay!
Oh.
And if your hand didn't go up in any of those, please call me.
I was gonna say, I know I have all these folks' contact numbers, but I'm just like,
Just send them my way. Yep, that'd be great. Yep. Thank you. I'm so sorry that took 4 minutes, but hopefully that was good.
No, great. And honestly, like I've seen quite a few of them. Like they're really fantastic, right? And again, this is going back to what I said at the beginning of the meeting, which is Wyoming wants you. We want to keep you. We want to attract people here. There's a lot of great stories, a lot of great people. This is such a great way to tell those really meaningful, impactful stories. So thank you so much for all of your hard work. Give your video team and your whole team just a really big accolade. So we're excited to partner with you.
They're amazing.
Yes, we're very, very proud. So congratulations, everyone. All right. Well, day one. Blink of an eye, it's here, it was gone. And so we are going to be going to recess now. As we know, we have a very important tour site today. We're going to be visiting the Wind River Job Corps Center. So again, just be respectful. I do believe also I was made aware, if you have any firearms, you will need to let them know at the front door at the security. So please keep firearms, weapons not there. Is that correct? Yes. Any other housekeeping things we need to know about before we go? Yep. Cool. 4200 Airport Parkway. And the last thing I will say before we all head out there, based on our conversation we had this morning, I did want to take back something that I said. I said that there are some things that are outside of our control. That's not true. That's what democracy is about, right? So Job Corps is really cool. If we want to keep it and you feel passionately about it, talk to your legislatures. So, all right, let's see you at the Job Corps Center.